Does a gonk tell us?
No plan.
Gonk is ready. We're ready. We're ready. Thank you, Gonk. And thank you and welcome, everybody, to Badonkagonk, where we talk about Star Wars and all things Star Wars. Today we have things to talk about, such as shows, books, games, and what our next podcast and book is going to be. Right, Eric?
Yes. And quilts.
Quilts.
Oh.
You have quilts to talk about?
Aaron's lying. We don't have a plan for this podcast. I don't know what I'm doing. What are we talking about?
I thought you were like, I've been working with Jancy. We've been making a Star Wars quilt.
Star Wars quilts.
I was like, oh, man, this is a cool hobby craft thing you've been doing.
Uh-huh.
But, so that's not, there's no quilts.
No quilts. I'm
No
sorry.
quilts,
But we
guys.
are in a big focus this week for me, especially on games.
On games.
Last week was a big focus. This week is a big focus.
Last week, if you guys missed it, we did stream Battlefront II, which was fun. I haven't played through the campaign in a long time, so a lot of the story elements of that was rusty in my mind. Mm-hmm. But all in preparation of Inferno Squad that we read over the last month, and it was fun to see the connections and stuff too.
Yeah.
But there was one thing that I thought about when we were playing it, and then I forgot about, and then I got to a point in the book, I'm like, oh yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'll talk about that here in a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the book, a little bit of the campaign. We'll be talking about the Acolyte cancellation that happened since the last time we had a Badonkagonk.
Mm-hmm.
And also, as always, we're going to be taking some questions. But we never get to the end of the questions, Aaron.
No.
We need to try.
Probably won't today either.
No, we need to try. You need to give us your questions. We're going to try to get to every single one of them, right?
We'll do some questions, but we're not going to get to all of them.
One day, we're going to get them all.
It never happens.
One day, we will.
Hopefully, we get to yours.
Yes.
So make sure you put one in.
Put your questions.
Hello there to a lot of people. A lot of people saying hello there.
Hello
I don't know where they got that from.
I have no idea.
Well, what I'd like to start with, Eric, is I haven't gotten to play it yet, and I don't know when I'm going to play it or what my plans for playing it are going to be exactly yet.
Yeah.
But you got to start playing Outlast, which came out this week. Now, I don't want to get into
Outlaws.
Yeah, Outlaws.
Outlast, no.
Outlast is different. That's scary.
No.
I'm in Scream Stream mode.
I do
for
not
later
want to do
in
Outlast
October.
again. You scared me for a second. I was like, no, I am. I did. Oh, no.
There's a sequel. If you haven't played the sequel, you should play that. It'd be great.
should.
Yeah, Star Wars Outlaws came out.
Outlaws, yeah.
And I don't necessarily want spoilers, but how's the time playing the game, or what do you like about it, or what's been you've only had one stream so far, right?
I've only had one stream, and I have purposely not. I haven't looked at chat. I haven't gone and been like, what are the reviews saying? What did IGN say?
Are you playing and ignoring chat while you play?
I mean, I look at chat every once in a while just to make sure, hey, the stream's broken, that
yeah.
type of thing. But I'm not, people just want to come in and be like, 6 out of 10, mid, Mm-hmm. I want to be like, did you play the whole game? It's on early access right now. Or did someone tell you that? So I am trying to divorce myself from the someone told me opinions, because even when you do your best to try to keep that out of your mind, it's almost impossible,
Sure.
You're always going to be, even if I, form my own opinion, if I hear them first, I'm going to now color it being like, some people have said this, but that wasn't my experience. With this game, I am only vehemently concerned with my experience, and I have no interest in anyone else's until I finish. So that's my experiment for playing Star Wars Outlaws, and my first stream.
Okay, so with that, let's tell everyone else what your thoughts on the game
Exactly. So I understand the hypocrisy. I really, really do. I've actually been wrestling with that lately.
Sure, yeah.
I understand the hypocrisy, but I feel like it's the only way for me to reclaim a little bit about what I really enjoy about Star Wars, which is how it makes me feel, not how it makes other people feel. I like to talk about how other people feel about it, but that's not my main concern, especially when I'm experiencing it for the first time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because another thing that I do too, a little bit too much is you will go online and put Star Wars Outlaws. What are people talking about? And you'll see stuff like, top 10 strategies for Star Wars Outlaws. And if you watch that, you don't get to discover that on your own. You don't get to do the wrong thing for half the game until you finally figure it out, halfway through the game, and then you have those moments,
Sure, yeah.
And I think I thrived and lived for those moments when I was younger, and I don't get them as much anymore because I just am trying to play the optimal way, And optimal isn't me ever.
Sure,
you know?
Right?
Yeah, so getting the game going, the only expectation or want that I had was please have a robust data bank or codex, and they do.
You just want to be able to
Yeah, I spent quite some time just being like, wait, we're pausing, and we're reading. But I think the first thing I said to you the next day was I was almost disappointed whenever action would start because I was having so much fun just kind of experiencing and a living world, you know?
Sure.
It really feels that way, or at least it has the illusion of it in the first, like, tutorial level. Like, I was like, oh, my God, this is going to be a problem because I haven't done anything for a while, you know?
My curiosity of the game, especially not playing it, was wondering, like, how open it would be because, like, you know, Jedi Survivor had some openness to it.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like you were on a necessarily lived-in planet. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of areas were, like, animal species and stuff, and you were like going through and exploring.
Yeah.
But they weren't like, well, I get to go visit like Tatooine and go to different cities on Tatooine or go through the desert and experience what that's like.
Sure.
And I was like, well, I wonder to what extent will this do? And will it feel like I can just go to a planet and really like explore a planet? Because even going in like playing KOTOR, when you go to that, you usually kind of have like sections you can hit up.
You do.
Right? And it doesn't really feel that open, even though like it's a fairly open game for the most part. It still has its limitations. And I was wondering, like, is this like GTA where like, all right, fine, you know what, go to Coruscant and you just get to go into Coruscant. Like, sure, there's going to be some doors you can't go through and stuff, but you can just go through the city and stuff. And I was like, I wonder to what extent it'll be. Can I hijack random cars? Let
me pick your brain a little bit then, because I agree. I like those type of games. But one thing about, like, let's take GTA for an example. I actually liked GTA 5 a little less because the characters I was playing as were so robust than I did like GTA 3 when my character was like voiceless, nameless, never talked, and I was that character. You know, like Link doesn't have much of a personality in Legend of Zelda. You can put a lot of yourself into Link. But Kay in Star Wars Outlaws is a fully fleshed character, in which case it's not that I'm like letting go of that control. It's like I kind of relish in it, you know, a little bit. So I'm kind of cool with letting her take me on a journey versus like me being like, I don't want to do that. It's like, well, she does, you know, I'm going with that.
Sure.
So I don't feel like I'm playing a role-playing game as I am playing a role.
Sure. So it feels different than like GTA 5, your experience with that. This one feels more so.
Yeah, I like it here, whereas I didn't love it in GTA 5 just because.
Is that because of Star Wars? Is that the reasoning you think?
Yeah, just because I'm so invested. Like, I actually liked that. Like, I got to a planet, and before I did anything on that planet, I just went to the data bank. One, because I want to be able to like know what I'm looking at. It's a new planet, new animals, new creatures, and stuff like that. But two, roleplay-wise, while I'm flying to this planet that I've never heard of before, you know what I would do on the ship as I'm waiting? I would like, what's the local fauna like? What are the gangs like on here? What can I read on the HoloNet? You know, like I'm imagining Kay doing those things, so I can really get invested that way.
Okay, yeah. That's cool. Do you get to like fly from planet to planet, or do you know if that's a thing or anything yet?
I don't quite know if it's a thing yet or not.
Okay.
There was a section that I thought like, oh crap, because it was really hectic, but after it was over, I was like, I don't even know if I was controlling that. So I don't think I've actually flown.
Okay.
But I have been on my speeder bike, which I think my first experience on it was very much like what a real speeder bike would be, which is like, oh my God, this is way too fast and dangerous.
Yeah. Okay.
But as I kept playing, I got better, you know? So.
All right. Well, you're going to be continuing that next Tuesday, right?
Next Tuesday, yeah. I'm excited to get more into it. I've already made, at the end of last stream, I made what I thought was like, ooh, this feels like a real choice. And I could see the game going one way or the other. And I'm picking this one, you know, because I felt like I had a good character reason for Kay to pick this one. Not just because I'm like, oh, I like these guys more, though, you know? So that was fun. It's I mean, maybe it's more of not a singular experience, but a more rare experience that the general video game player knows about the Star Wars universe as much as people like us that go to Star Wars podcasts and listen to this type of thing, you know? But for me, that just enhances everything. Like, I'm not necessarily here to play the best game I've ever played, but I'm here to learn about Kay and where she fits into the galaxy that I know so well. And right now, it's fun. I'm excited for you to get into it, too.
Yeah, I need to figure out. I've been debating if like Jedi Survivor, like I streamed that and then you streamed it later on.
Yeah.
I've also talked about like just playing it on my own. I've also thought about trying to play it and like just record it and try to make highlights of it too, or something like that too, if I wanted to share that. So I don't know what I want to do yet, but I definitely want to play it, and I don't want to wait a long time because I've already got Dark Souls I've been playing, and then October's coming up, and I know I'm gonna have Scream stream, and then probably finishing Dark Souls after that.
Sure.
So I don't know when I get to play it on stream yet. So I don't know, but at some point.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to it, but I'm selfish right now. I only care about mine.
All right. Well, make sure you guys tune in next Tuesday on Twitch and Wave Squadron, either one. And Eric will be back Tuesday, 6 o'clock, for more Outlaws.
Yeah. What I like, because it was so much fun to play Battlefront last week, too. Like, I would be really interested in what people would want us to go back and play. You know?
Sure.
Like, I mean, I have no problem replaying games that I've played before, but, like, what are the bangers that I've missed?
Well, and there's definitely things.
Like, I never played a real-time strategy game, ever.
So you mean not just Star Wars, you mean in general kind of thing?
I mean,
like,
in general is nice, but Star Wars just for Badonkagonk.
in the Star Wars sense of things,
yeah.
I think there's things I've played where I'm just like, especially when I was younger, like I'm just playing the game.
Yeah.
Whereas playing like Jedi Fallen Order together or even Battlefront, sometimes like we're looking and talking about other things that I'm not seeing my first time playing, or even things I'm not seeing my second time playing, you know, because there's a different set of eyes looking at other things.
It's more of like like more than a game experience.
Yeah, especially whenever there's when like in Battlefront is a good example of okay, there's a lot of stuff happening and I have to like try to not die and shoot all the bad guys, and you're like not focusing on that, and you're like, man, look at that stuff back there, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I have 3 guys I'm trying to take care of. So it's just
and then once you take care of them, they float into space.
that was a fun part of that. So, but yeah, there's definitely I think some games, even single player or I've never played. If we go back older stuff, like I've never played Republic Commandos. You know,
Republic. Yeah, Matthew McGee just recommended Star Wars Republic Commando. I think that would be a great one for you.
I've never played that,
especially because when I played it, like I didn't really know who the clones were.
Yeah,
not like we know now.
Sure.
So, and I haven't replayed it since then. So that might be a cool experience for you, being like, oh, I know clones, but not these ones.
Yeah. I've never played KOTOR 2. I never beat KOTOR 1. I got through like all the main planets, and then like I think another planet opened up and I never made it to that.
Gotcha. Okay.
There's like 3 or 4 times I attempted to play it, and I always had something that happened. Like I borrowed a guy's Xbox and then he wanted it back, so I never got to finish it.
Yeah. So you never made it to the Starforge?
No.
Oh.
I borrowed another guy's Xbox and it got stolen from back of my truck.
The universe does not want you to finish that game.
I think I played another time and I had corrupted memory.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then you were waiting like, oh, well, they'll make a new one. And then
I was excited for the new one. I'm like, I'll finally get to play through KOTOR, like all of it.
And I'm not kidding. Each time it's brought up, it's either canceled again or back on. Every time someone brings it up to me, it's different than the last thing I heard.
I know. It's, and then the Jedi games, what is it? Katarn? Right?
Yeah. Dark Forces into Jedi Outcast.
I've
Jedi
only
Academy.
ever played, is Academy the last one?
Academy, yeah.
I've only ever played that.
That would have been the Jaden Core game. That's where you get to make your own character.
I believe
My Jaden Core was a Keldor and always will be.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know. Do you remember who yours was?
No,
was
probably
it a human?
a human that looked like me.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I did.
And they had the best character in Star Wars, Rosh. Remember?
Rosh.
Jaden. He was like your buddy. That like turns on you?
I think that was Jason Marsden that played him.
Was it?
Yeah,
really?
Which,
I love Rod.
Max and
I don't say this with any irony. Like I legitimately love him. Like he's one of my favorite like whiny characters. Yep, love him. Rosh Pennon, something like that.
I don't remember. I don't remember very well because I think I was just playing through it, and it was like I think I streamed it. It was like a May 4th thing, and I was like, oh, May 4th, I'm gonna play some Star Wars games, and I think I started KOTOR then. Never finished it either. I think I was playing on PC and it kept glitching on me or something. I don't know what I did.
Gotcha.
I don't remember. I just remember never beating the game.
Outcast and Academy were the first games I ever modded. Like I got into the mod community. It's really just that in KOTOR.
Just that?
Yeah. KOTOR had this great mod. I don't know. I played with it all the time. And I don't know. Maybe it's silly, but the Sith troopers in that game, do you remember the Sith troopers? They were like, they had like black undersuits and then they were like chrome everywhere.
Okay.
And I always, for some reason, it's one of those taste things. I've always been like, I don't like the chrome. I just remember finding a mod that was like, turn the chrome into Stormtrooper white. And I did that and I was just like, oh, this is so great. I had never played another version of that game without it.
That's what you did?
Yeah.
Huh.
I think it's one of the first times that I discovered, like, oh, when I don't like something, I can change it. Nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
No, I never messed with the mods on that or anything. I did mess with Empire at War, I think is what it was called, a little bit.
I've never played those games.
They have some story aspects, but a lot of it is like what some Star Wars games do, where like Star Wars Rogue Squadron, you fight on Hoth and defend Echo Base.
Sure.
It's like a thing that you've seen. So some of it's not necessarily new. You might have to like here's an RTS and you have to destroy the shield generator on Endor and stuff. But other times I think that sometimes they have a new thing you got to do. Like I always liked in Rogue Squadron where it's like there's their story they have, but it intertwines with like, around the time of these situations. Yeah. So it's like, well, we have an escort mission where you got to do this, or you got to attack this Imperial installation. But okay, also we're gonna go to Hoth now, and we have to defend that. Shadows did the same thing, right? Where you start off on Hoth, and then it's moving on from there with its own story.
Hoth
and stuff.
Tends to be, I don't know why, but it tends to be like your first or tutorial level in something.
I think it's one of those things where it's like, well, you can start off with this and get into some like quick action that everyone loves. Yeah. And then we can kind of slow down and go into other places and stuff too, and we'll teach you how to do it.
It's a good way of grounding you in the universe too. And it's not too demanding for a game.
I suppose not. Especially back in the day, just flat white snow everywhere. You don't have it actually snowing or anything. So.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll go back and like watch let's play Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. And I have these memories of the Battle of Hoth being like, oh my God, that game, hours and hours, just combat and explosions. But you can watch it now, it's just, ding, 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 and I'm like, it's not that exciting, This must be like, a generational feeling of like, man, games used to be so good. It's like, no, you just had lower expectations.
Well, a little bit of that. I mean, at the time, like there wasn't graphics better.
No, there wasn't.
So
that's
like,
what I'm saying. That was the norm.
What was the best? And like, this is so cool. And now there's so much more, and you look back and it's like it looks less because graphically it just couldn't do any more. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. But no, I think it'd be fun to go through some other games and stuff on the channel and play some. Yeah. Whether they're multiplayer or just going through single-player stuff.
I feel like you have some real good – you have some bangers. You need to play the Jango Fett game.
Yeah, I never played that.
That one's a great one.
I played the Episode 1, like Phantom Menace PlayStation 1 game. I played that.
I don't know if I – see, is that the same as Jedi Power Battles?
I don't
That was a PlayStation game, and it was also Episode 1. But it was like you can play Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, or – maybe it was CSA-10. I don't know. You had like 4 Jedi you could play as.
Really?
And one of them had a red lightsaber. And I always thought like,
why?
That's dumb. Well, because we just assume that all the the rules that we know about Star Wars today were always there. But I mean, when Episode 1 was coming out, no one had any idea that red was like the bad guy. They just thought it was a lightsaber color. Oh. No, so having a Jedi with a red lightsaber wasn't a big deal.
I think all I played was just this Star Wars Episode 1: The Phantom Menace.
Oh, it's just called Episode 1: The Phantom Menace.
Star Wars Episode 1: The Phantom Menace.
I might never play that one then.
Yeah, I think Rick had it, and Rick had Star Wars Episode 1.
Wow,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I never had a PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
So
he would play everything but the pod race.
Yeah, right.
Have you come over and do the pod race?
Yeah. So I played through that one. Okay. I don't know if I beat it, but I remember playing through it a little bit and just being like, "This is fun." It's like playing probably the Revenge of the Sith one. Where it's like going through the movie, but also sometimes there's a few new things that wasn't in the movie. Like
that one's good.
Like Syndralig or something like that.
Syndralig boss battle. He had like this like.
I've never played that game. I just know of it too.
I think that. I mean, again, I haven't engaged with him in so long, so I can't tell you. Like, yes, modern Aaron would love this, but modern era. Aaron would love like Jolie Bindo from Knights of the Republic, like Treya from KOTOR 2, like. Those were things that, we were talking about back then. Now the acolytes like, oh, why the Jedi the bad guys? It's like, have you not been paying attention to Jedi characters for the last 20 years? Like, they talk about this, like that what they are is not perfect. They just might be the best thing that there currently is, that type of thing. So I think that you would really enjoy, at the very least, those more introspective Force-using characters.
Sure. Jolie, old swamp guy, right? Is that Jolie?
Yeah, you find him in the underground of Kashyyyk. Yeah, that's right.
I remember that. I remember also struggling in KOTOR, being like, I could just take a whole Jedi team, but like, should I take the droids? Or should I? I don't know. I like these guys too, and I can only take like 3 of us.
I do that in Baldur's Gate 3 when I'm playing at home and I'm like doing like early levels and stuff. Like at the very least, I get to, because I don't want to go too far from where we are in our public one that we're doing on stream. So I just replay, but I replay with different characters that I'm taking with me. So. I can be like, oh, well, I had no idea this person had a whole like storyline. I completely skipped over because I left them in camp. You know, that type of thing. But I felt that in KOTOR. I would be like, why would I not just have all the Jedi?
Yeah, right.
But
and I'll
that means Carthanasi he's irrelevant after the first like planet.
Yeah,
if that's what you do.
I'm not gonna take Canderous, and I guess I'll just leave the droids back.
Like, what about Mission? You know, what about
Poor Mission and
Za? What about Za? You know, what's his name?
What was his name?
It started with a Z.
Zanzar?
Zalbar.
Zalbar?
Zalbar sounds good.
Yeah.
One
it
second.
definitely was a Z. Where are you going?
Wait.
What do you mean just wait?
I can go right here now.
Gonk, why'd you let this happen? You shouldn't have done this. You should have, like, told him to stop.
Eric. All right, I'm back. I love that my collection is now just right off camera. His name is Zalbar. There's the action figure. And he comes with a vibroblade.
Okay.
Yeah, I love this one.
Zalbar and Mission.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Of course they made Zalbar because he's just a reskinned Wookiee. It's easy to do that one.
Episode 1 and Jedi Power Battles is separate. Oh, thank you, Carl. Appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. I've played Power Battles, and I
Bombad Racers or whatever that was.
I never played that one.
It was like these weird little chibi-headed Star Wars racers.
Yeah.
I remember it being a game on like PS2, but I never played it. It was like Bombad Racing or something like that.
Huh.
It wasn't pod racing. I don't think.
Was that the one with like the big heads?
Yeah, they had like little cars and big heads, and I think it was like a kart racer kind of thing.
So it was like Mario Kart but Star Wars.
I think so, but I never played it. But I remember that being a thing. So
yeah.
But I don't know. But yeah, guys, let us know, especially if you're on YouTube or whatever, in the comments. Like, what are some things you'd like to see, or I don't know, tweet at us or something too.
What's your dream, like, Star Wars game?
In general?
Yeah.
Like, what do I want?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know.
You
know
like,
my imagination's
EA comes
not great.
to you and they say you get to pick the next Star Wars game. Go, but you only got 5 minutes. Go.
I only got 5 minutes.
Yep.
Like,
what's your pitch? I think my pitch is a brand new, far more robust pod racer game.
Pod racing.
Brand new pod racer game. You can get the classic stuff, but you get like new characters. You can make your own pod. You can like win stuff and get money and fix your pod, buy stuff. Awesome courses. Mm-hmm. Maybe some type of like actual storyline of like a racer. The cool thing about Outlaws is like I'm not a Jedi. I am a girl with a blaster and bad ideas.
Okay.
Like so maybe like a cool game would be some type of like legitimately, it's just a racing story, but it's in the Star Wars universe, and you're just doing that. I would play that game in a heartbeat.
Can I do like an illegal like speeder bike game where like
illegal speeder bike game?
Well, like because like one of my favorite games growing up was Midnight Club, where it was an illegal street racing kind of game, and the whole thing of it was like you raced, you tried to get first place, and you could then like get more money, and then you could modify your racer, and you could get new cars, you could get updated, you can change colors, you can modify however you want. Like, maybe you can modify yourself and put, like, different, like modify you.
So the mods from Tatooine.
Yeah, but I want their speeders to go faster.
They go that fast.
No, faster.
That would be so funny. And you get, like, items that you can, like, throw and stuff. How funny would that be?
Because all the mods have their own little, like, perks and things.
Yeah.
Thundercat.
I want it faster. We can go to Thundercat, the dude the mechanic.
Need for Speed Pod Racer.
The tech mech.
Pod. I don't know. Maybe, like, I do like I would love a bounty hunter game. Like I've never played Jango Fett, but like whatever they talked about that was gonna be like kind of I think it was by the producer that did like Uncharted or something like that, and like that sounded kind of cool. It sounded like they were kind of like a smuggler. Like I'd love like some kind of like I don't know if it's a shooter necessarily.
Yeah.
But I don't know, going and having to like hunt down targets and stuff, or like Hitman almost, but for bounty hunting, Like maybe you can choose to try to blend in and find your target a different way or something. Like that could be kind of neat to do.
That would be pretty cool.
Like blend into like Mos Eisley.
Yeah.
Trying to find your target somewhere in there and they don't know you're coming. Though most bounty hunter stuff we see now, they have like fobs and they're like beep beep, there he is, go get him.
It is kind of like that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's not really Hitman-ish.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think diving somehow into like the criminal underworld. I don't know what the game is, but I want it to take place in the Solo movie time frame. Like I want to know like the Darth Maul and the crime syndicates and those things. Like I think that stuff to me sounds really interesting, and I hate that we haven't like gone back to that since Solo. Like put a game somewhere in that time frame where I am a spice runner, or maybe I am some kind of crime, I don't know, underling that's doing stuff for that kind of stuff.
Can I give you a a small spoiler for Outlaws.
It's Crime Syndicate.
Well, yeah, that is
because I'm pretty sure there was like some pikes in a trailer once.
There were definitely some pikes, and I think it's probably obvious once I say that this happens in the game. But you can play Sabacc, and it's a pretty robust like game. Like I had to go through like 15 screens of like here are the rules
of learning how to play Sabacc.
Yeah,
That's
and then we're like you can play at various tables. Like you get certain experience and you get certain items, you can get better ways of cheating. Like
you can cheat.
Yeah,
in the game?
like you can cheat in the game. So then,
cool.
like I don't know if this is possible or not, but I kept watching the other players
to see if they're cheating.
Because how brilliant would that be to put that in the game?
Well,
have it so that you can actually call out when others are cheating.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can use your droid to like go around and look at people's cards if you want. And stuff.
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
really?
It's really cool.
Oh,
yeah,
that's cool. What was it? Pazak or something like that? That was in KOTOR? It wasn't Sabacc.
Pazak, yeah.
But it was something like it.
Yeah, it was kind of a rudimentary, just like a numbers game.
Yeah.
And this is too. I mean, it's nothing crazy or anything like that, but it does feel like it's going to be a big part of the game if you want it to be.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I also played an arcade game.
Well, having those, like that makes me think of like playing Grand Theft Auto, where there's different like other mini games in the world that you can do. Where my favorite was San Andreas, where depending on what you chose to do extra, it would alter your person. So like you might, if you worked out a lot, maybe you were stronger or faster, and your stamina didn't drain so much, or you could climb fences faster. But if you didn't work out and you went to like the burger joint a lot, you would gain weight and you'd have trouble getting over fences. Or if you decided to go and practice,
I remember that.
Yeah, if you went and practice different things, you could like buff up like how well your pistol skills are, or like different skill sets. And I always thought that was really cool to have like in a game that's fairly open, where you can be like, I'm gonna make my character more like this. Let's go to the gym and work out so that my character is a little stronger or a little faster.
GTA 4 had that system I always liked that was like if you create relationships with people, they'll literally call you and ask you to go do things, which are just mini games. You could go on a date with characters and go bowling. And play bowling for a half hour if you wanted to. Or
get called and go gamble, or maybe if you gamble enough, it opens a new quest line of some sort or a championship that you get to be a part of. Like that kind of stuff's always cool to me, where it's hey, this stuff that doesn't matter, if you do it, there is some extra rewards and stuff that you get to dive into. So but that would be cool if you play Sabacc enough, whether you cheat or not. If you win enough, you become kind of renowned in it. Yeah. And you could get invited to like a special poker tournament kind of thing, And you can cheat in that, but it might be more dangerous to cheat there,
Yeah.
So do you have skill, or have you just been cheating your way to the top? So I don't know, but yeah, I'd love some more stuff in the. When does this one take place? It's after episode 6. Or is it during? Do you know the era that?
It's between 5 and 6.
Between 5 and 6. Okay, interesting. I would like to go into some of my favorite era is between episodes 3 and 4.
Yeah,
and just like having time during the Empire of stuff happening and like seeing what crime syndicates do and doing all that. Yeah. So I think I'd love something in that time frame. But I don't know. I don't know what the game is, unless I do a mods racing.
Yeah, and then I think a lot of people's big dream is just a Battlefront that can just go as far as we all want it to, which is like, I want 128 people in a match, and I want them to be able to go from ground to Star Destroyer. I want to be able to pilot the Star Destroyers. I want to be able to say like, hey, I don't have anybody on the turbo lasers. Get up here, that type of thing.
That would be cool. I would like that. Like it's like what we had in Battlefront 2 of the newest one. Yeah. And like combining stuff we had in Battlefront 2 of the original Battlefront 2, like there was stuff that we lost that I loved. Yeah. And I'd love to get that, especially the space combat stuff was some of my favorite things. So. Yeah. All right.
Especially if you're able to like mod your ship the way that you wanted to. And
that was always a cool thing too, like being able to actually like this is my ship. Yeah. Like I know like TIE fighters don't have that, like and I think in the book or in the game or somewhere in there like it's kind of mentioned where it's like X-wings are like. Luke has his X-wing. This is his X-wing, right? That he flies, and it's his. But like for a TIE fighter, like pilots and ships are all interchangeable, so don't get attached to anything.
Maybe you do something where it's a tiny bit asymmetrical, where like the Empire is technically better or stronger, but they can't mod their stuff like the Rebellion can, and maybe you like balance it that way or something. You know what I'm saying? It's like the Empire. If you get to a certain point, it's like it's an overwhelming force. There's nothing you can do. Yeah, but if you have a little bit of ingenuity and a little different things, and if you can balance it correctly, that might be kind of fun to make it slightly asymmetric. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, you sound like you're getting into real-time strategy kind of things there with a little bit. Because, like, I always remember, like having like in StarCraft where like different species like Terran, Zerg, Protoss had different perks and weaknesses for all of them. Like you do that and you have like, here's the Empire's really good at this, but not good at this stuff, you know?
Sure.
But
like maybe the Empire's better, like they can get like, reinforcements better because they're better armed.
Yeah, they just have a lot more reinforcements available in general. It's more of the masses versus like...
But yeah, you're probably right. Maybe I'm just mixing genres.
I mean, you can have that too. I mean, a lot of games, like, especially if you're in like flight combat things or shooters or any of that kind of stuff, you need some kind of balance between either the factions or the classes or whatever too. What do you want to move into next? Are you done with the game stuff now? Do we want to go into...
speaking of games and the different mediums that you can go into, let's go into a medium that is not a video game, but very related.
Sure,
So we go into the book.
We'll talk about Inferno Squad.
Squad.
I imagine as we do this, we'll probably jump in with like the game a little bit that we played. Because one thing I was looking forward to was kind of like being able to talk about different things that maybe we caught or didn't catch.
Yeah.
Like maybe I didn't catch, but you caught, of like things that tied to the game or
how it recontextualized the game.
Yeah.
I think that the first thing to say when it comes to this book is if one of your complaints about the campaign of Battlefront II was, I wish they were the part of the Empire more. If you had read the book, you might not feel that way as much, Because by the time I got to the end of this book, I was like, you guys need to get out of this thing. Get out of the Empire,
Yeah.
I was ready for them to leave.
Right? No, and I do agree. Like this, the whole book takes place from like the end of episode 4 till, I mean, a little bit before the game. I know they at least have another mission before whatever they end up with there in that part where she's trapped on that ship and stuff. But
and it's also important to remember, most people when this first came out read the book, then played the game because it came out first.
But no, one of my complaints, I don't think it was necessarily that Iden did leave the Empire, but I think it was just how fast it happened. Like
exactly.
a lot of, and I think people said too, like a lot of the marketing was usually for like playing as the Empire and like getting to do that, and you do it a little bit, but then it fairly quickly transitions. And it's not that long of a game overall either. But
that's tough, like because you want to be able to sell what you're doing in the game, but not spoil major decisions that you're making, despite them happening relatively early in the game, right?
Yeah.
Like Mandalorian season 1. First episode hit so hard because none of us had any idea that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But that's like one of the biggest things, and your marketing would take a hit, you know? So
like you could use it to try to market more, but I love not spoiling it too. So, but no, this book, I think it definitely gives a lot more Imperial time for our protagonist and her squad, and I think it makes it more understandable of where she is to where she is in the game, and being like, I understand why she's transitioning into not wanting to be a part of the Empire anymore.
100%. They're like, I feel like it kind of like, it's not necessarily, how am I going to say this? It's not necessarily fair of me to be like, I added what I learned from this book to this game, which made the game story better for me. It's like, well, shouldn't it be in the video game if that's what you're supposed to do?
Sure.
But I also I don't care about that too much. So now I'm just enjoying the story of the game way more in my head.
It's the same with like episode 3 and episode 2. You don't get the clone connection.
No.
But if you watch Clone Wars, which is a separate thing, but is still tied in the same universe, you get a little bit more context to, one, what the Clone Wars were, but two, who the clones are and how meaningful they can really be, as opposed to, well, they're just like our human droids that we use, Like we got a lot of them, and that's our army, and if they die, like it doesn't matter, Like that's kind of how you feel in episode 3. Is just like there's a bunch of like soldiers that we just cloned, so we don't have to worry about that. And when you watch Clone Wars, you really start to care and feel, and like when things happen with clones now, like it's so much more meaningful than it was when I just watched episode 3.
Yeah. It is crazy to think that like the most beloved clone character that we have does not appear in a Star Wars movie. Like a beloved character of that faction, like many people when it's like, who's your favorite Jedi, they're going to appear in the movie probably, but who's your favorite clone? Most people that are going to say Rex. And he didn't make his live action debut until last year. Yeah. It's crazy to think of that. That's the power the Clone Wars had. Awesome.
No, it's crazy. But I think that's Star Wars in a general sense. Like I think there's a lot of those elements where like Star Wars. I mean, you've referred to it as a living mythology a lot, and I think that's kind of where it is. It's like there's so many more things that have been recontextualized for even going back to A New Hope, where like watching A New Hope when it first came out, here's what you get from it. Clone Wars, what's that? Oh, Anakin used to be his pupil and he was killed by Darth Vader, you know? And then 2 more movies come out and that whole scene is recontextualized just because of the original trilogy. Not even counting if you get the prequel trilogy in, and now you have a better idea of the Clone Wars, or if you watch Clone Wars in general and his experiences with Anakin Skywalker, like people then add so much more to what Alec Guinness is giving or not giving in that scene that you're putting in there because of the context you have. So I think Star Wars does that with a lot of their content. So I don't know. I get the idea of like, well, if I want to have a movie, I need to have all those in one, or if I'm going to do a game, all that needs to be one. But also, sometimes there's other stories, and a lot of what George was going for was you are getting this, what, Buck Rogers or whatever it was, type of story right now. You don't know what happened before, and you might not know what happens after because you might miss that episode. But this is the story you're getting. And then at some point you can catch, oh man, there's here's the rerun. I can watch the episode that came before, and I missed that, you know? So I think having those makes it feel more like that as well.
I think so.
And maybe people don't necessarily think about that sometimes, or they're worried that we won't get context. Because that's one of the things, too, is like, I want more context on what is Darth Maul and Kira. Like, what are they going to do? And I don't know when I get that, but I'm hoping I get that at some point, you know?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. There's kind of, you heard of the, what do they call it? The Glup Shido meme?
I feel like you just said some bad words to me. I don't know
The Glup Shido meme is it's a Star Wars specific meme that people that don't know every character that appears from animation or something, they go, oh, there's Glup Shido. All these nerds are excited because this guy showed up, you know? And it's kind of meant to be more of a not derogatory, but kind of like a poking at people that take this stuff too seriously, or the idea that that's all Disney needs to give you is just, we're going to show you this character you like, and now I've done my job by entertaining you.
It's the idea, I guess, of like Book of Boba Fett's not a good show, but then there's Cad Bane,
and all the nerds are excited.
Everyone's
that
happy
type
and good with it, but I don't know.
And I see like two sides of that. Like one, I can see the side of someone that's like, don't rely on that. Tell me a story too, just not just the people that have been here for all this time. But then you also are rewarding people that have invested so much of that time and feeling like that investment pays off, you know, by having that type of thing. So I see both sides of that. But on the other point, I was really just giving lip service. I do not at all think that, you know,
I will say I think that
it needs to be in one thing.
I think this book has one of those kind of moments too, where there's something that's going on, but I think the author did a pretty good job too of like, if you know, it's a really cool thing that you can connect into, and if you don't know, it's given in a way where it's not like, well, I don't understand what's going on. And I think like the way you have Cad Bane in Book of Boba is he's brought in as a person that is threatening and like, okay, well, here's an antagonist of some way, and you understand all that. But if you know who he is before, you're excited because you're like, oh my gosh, I get to see him in live action. 2, I didn't know what happened to him. You know, like I love to see like what's the continuation of some of these characters. But also at the same time, I want to add new characters and do new things too. So I understand both of those, but I love to see when the new gets intertwined with some of the old, you know?
Me too.
Like if you have Kay in Outlaws and Book of Boba takes place after episode 6, could Cad Bane show up? And like you're excited Cad Bane showed up for this little segment here, but it's Kay's story that you're journeying through, and you're getting all this new, but you get a little bit of like, oh, I know this and this is really cool, you know? Like those kind of moments are a really neat thing to have. So
for the future, if you're watching this later and we just like shut off, like we are having a really bad thunderstorm right now, so if things shut off, that's what happened.
Sorry.
But getting back to the book,
dude, I did not expect her to be a survivor of the Death Star.
Right?
Did you?
No.
I did not think we were gonna like.
Not at all.
I did enjoy
one of the only survivors.
Yeah.
There's like
2 of them.
Yeah, I know of 2 now. Iden Versio was there when Luke Skywalker did his thing.
Yeah.
You know, we might have seen her ship at some point.
I do enjoy excuse me. I do enjoy the first chapter covering like that element, talking about like here's what really happened on Jeddah, but here's what we told everybody, and the only people that know the truth are the people who have been stationed on the Death Star. And like just having elements like that, and also like the thing of Alderaan, you know, like there's a little bit of talk about that and stuff too that she has, and I enjoyed a lot of that. But then her getting out and like we gotta go stop these little ships trying to attack our battle station, but like you're getting the Imperial viewpoint of like, why are we worried about this? why is Darth Vader coming out to deal with this?
Yeah.
Like, something seems like they're not telling us something, but I don't know what it is, you know?
People over her are like, don't worry about it. Do what you're supposed to do, you know?
Yeah.
Which is very not rebellion.
Yeah.
It's not rebel way of doing things.
But and then that's also, I think, around the part, too, that we were talking about earlier with games, the Empire's strengths versus weaknesses, and, like, is it just numbers and stuff? And, like, they talk about, I think it's in this part. I don't somewhere in here, I remember them talking about Iden being, like, having the mindset of, like, we don't have shields.
Yeah.
You have to kill the enemy first.
Yeah.
Like, that's the Empire mindset of, like, you know, one, we're all interchangeable. It's like, this TIE fighter won't be my TIE fighter. I'll get a new TIE fighter.
Yeah.
But if I die and this TIE fighter's still good, they'll just put a new pilot into my TIE fighter,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So, like, all those elements that the Rebels don't do, too. Like, you get to see the Imperial way, but it doesn't seem to necessarily bother her.
Well, no, because
yet.
what the I think the book does in a fantastic way is the things that you can criticize Inferno Squad about, you can criticize the partisans, like the other group.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're both at fault. If we had Inferno Squad infiltrating like Mon Mothma rebels, you know,
Sure.
it'd be a very different.
Yeah.
But here, like, because these partisans, or I should say the Dreamers, are leftover Saul Guerrera militants, like,
Yeah.
it does work for me. There's a couple times where I'm still like, how do you not see that that's fascism? You know, that type of thing. But, you know, there's really only one thing about the whole book that not bugs me, that I'm just kind of like, how does this work? Because as the story goes on, you know, we have Inferno Squad is made in response to the Death Star. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's why it's put together. The best of the best.
We get our 4 members.
Yes, which was shocking to me and probably to nobody reading it for the first time.
No.
And it shocked them later, but I kept waiting for the axe to fall.
Well, so this was what I was saying earlier when I was like, when we played Battlefront 2, I was like, oh, there's only 3 in this.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, dang, that means that we're going to lose Sin at some point.
Yeah.
And then, like, we finished that in this past week, like, I finished the book.
Yeah.
And going through it, I was just like, oh, yeah, and I wasn't even thinking about it. And then it got to a part in the chapter where I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
She can't be in later.
Why, did you think that she was going to get transferred?
I think I got so much into the book and stuff at the point that I just kind of forgot that was a thing.
Yeah.
And then it got to a part where I remembered, I guess, and rediscovered, like, oh, yeah, she can't be in the game, so what happens to her here?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I was like, oh, man.
This book did a lot of things for me.
Yeah.
One, we'll get to, like, the reveal.
Sure.
Or whatever.
You were also saying about something you didn't like, too, so don't forget about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll get back to the thing that I didn't like.
Okay.
The thing that I didn't like is that Iden eventually needs to act like she is turning on the Empire in order to become the new face, the new Saw Gerrera for the partisans, the Dreamers, right?
Sure.
So publicly, she is shown as a turncoat. Mm-hmm. And then the stuff happens, and then she's welcomed back to the Empire. Mm-hmm. And in the game, she becomes a turncoat. And none of the rebels are like, what?
Fool me once.
You can't do it again. You
Fool me
can't turn.
twice.
Like, she's obviously, this is obviously fake. Well, we're just going to believe you this time? But, like, that doesn't happen ever, you know? So there's, like, a small, tiny disconnect in my head where I'm going, like, does that really work? But then I also was trying to, like, you know, if I am going to find something like that, I try to steel man it as hard as I can. Make it impossible to make a plot hole. So then I'm going, like, they never said that they, like, announced she was back with the Empire. You know, like,
sure.
And she's a clandestine secret agent. Why would they be like, oh, correction, actually, she was for the, you know, it's not like she has to tell her mom.
Sure.
That type of thing.
So
they don't really have to do that, I guess. Maybe it's not a problem.
When she comes back in the Empire, is there a public announcement of her rejoining?
Why would there be?
I don't know.
Why would you do that?
Also, Lando was there the second time. So
yeah, you're right.
I don't know what that means, but he was there.
So that was one of the, I guess, problem. It was just one of the things where I was like, huh, okay, they're going this route. But I think by the time I actually got to the end of the book, it didn't bother me as much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I cut you off on whatever you were saying to get you back onto what you were saying before, but I don't know if you remember what it was, and I forgot what it was. So.
Well, that is a good transition point to move on to our next point.
All right. I liked getting to see and meet all the members of the squad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, honestly, I felt like that was missing from the campaign. Yeah. I don't think I ever really got super close other than Gideon and maybe.
Sure, yeah. I
To
mean,
the
I don't
other
think you get a
characters.
ton with Dell. You get the feeling that there's some kind of like relationship kind of thing going
Dell
on.
has that awesome moment with Luke Skywalker, but even when we did the campaign again, I was kind of sitting there like, why do these two get together and have a kid? Like, I never felt any chemistry behind them at all. They just seemed like they were just really good friends.
This one definitely focuses on these four a lot more, and you're in their heads, and you understand
I
them
care
a lot
so
more.
much more. And I also kind of see her and Dell together now. Iden and Dell a bit more.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that. I love seeing them come together, and I love getting like what their strengths were.
Yeah.
And every time they had Hask doing stuff, I kept picturing Captain Lance. Like, it just was in my head. Yeah. Also, it was really cool in the audiobook to have Iden. I'm not going to try to say her name because I know I'll destroy it. But the actor who plays Iden Versio in the game was the reader of the book. I loved it. Extremely
impressed with her audiobook. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. I love when we get like when we get actors that played these roles to do the audiobook. But sometimes you can tell this person's never done an audiobook before. They may not be the best at finding voices for characters, and sometimes remembering what their voices sounded like for characters. Sometimes, that doesn't happen. But I felt like she did a freaking awesome job.
Yeah, fantastic
job. I could feel her father. I could feel Gideon. I could feel Dell when she was playing this character. Yeah, I could feel Hask. I thought she did so good.
I thought like sometimes like because of I don't know how much they would have worked with each other necessarily, but having worked with them on the game, that maybe that also could translate over to be like, I kind of get what they're going for with their characters, so I'm going to try to bring that in the audiobook.
Sure.
But I thought she did a good job on the other characters that I didn't know,
Yeah.
Because that's always the thing is like whenever there's we always talk about Mark Thompson and stuff too, but like he does a really good job.
Well, I mean, he's one of the best. Yeah.
When you have to have like, all right, characters you don't know, whatever voice it is fine. But when it's a character that I've already heard somewhere, that's the trickier one I think to do.
Yeah.
But no, I thought it was great what the actor, the book reader in this scenario did.
Yeah.
So she was awesome with it.
Janine?
I don't.
Why? I want to say Gaffigan. I know that's not right. That's Jim Gaffigan.
It's not Jim Gaffigan.
Ganakar. We met her at the first Star Wars celebration we went to. Remember that?
Yes. Before we knew there was a Battlefront 2.
Yeah, that's right.
She was on the floor at Star Wars Celebration, and it was one of those things more so of like, aren't you in the league?
We recognized her, from the league. And I was like, I know this actor. She's like, it was like, you like Star Wars? You're just hanging out with Celebration. I was like, yep. Just here for that.
Yeah. And then it was later that day that they brought her out on stage and was like, our voice for Iden Versio.
Oh, I completely forgot about that story. That's so cool. Yeah, she was really, really gracious with being on the floor there. Now that I know the full context. That was probably really fun for her.
What did you think about Garrick, I believe, right, is his first name? Her dad, Versio? I think it's Garrick.
Oh,
Versio.
yeah, Versio.
What do you think of him? Because in this one here, we get a few other moments with him, one of which is also him having thought his daughter being dead and now is not dead. Mm-hmm. And some of those moments I was kind of like, all right, so it feels like he's trying to balance, like, I'm an Imperial and I got to do this, but also I've been worried about my daughter and missing her and stuff too. But then, like, playing Battlefront 2, because I went through that first, then we played Battlefront 2, and then we get to, like, the, Varsio? What's the planet? Their home planet. Vardos.
Why?
We get to that.
You asked me 2 seconds ago, I would have gotten you. But now that you're flailing, I feel like I need to flail too.
I think it's Vardos.
Yeah.
We get to the Vardos thing in the game, which is the home planet. And I don't know if I got that from the game that it's their home planet.
Oh yeah, they say it in the game.
But in the book, like they talk about like that's where they're from and that's where the mom lives and all that kind of stuff. But we get to like that moment. And I'm like, screw this guy. I hate him so much. I understand why. She's like, disown this father. And then you get to the end of the game, and she's like, you're stronger than me. I will stay here. You go do something better. And I'm like, I guess, but you could have just not done the bad things you did, And I hate why you did that.
Yeah, but I mean, coloring the relationship more here, I mean, I think it enhances those scenes for me. But and I don't want to skip to the end of the book, but the end of the book moment with those two, I thought it kind of moved me.
With the dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
When he talks about the mother.
Sure, yeah. Okay.
And I want to give special shout out to the book because I don't think I've ever been more invested in a team that I have no desire to see succeed.
I get what you mean. Sure.
I have
I think also
no desire to like have them be like, oh yeah, I hope they screw these rebels over. You know?
I think also, like you said, having the partisans be and the antagonists of the story works really well with that. But also, I feel like 3 of them are pretty decent people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas, like, I feel like Hask is an Imperial. Like, he is, even just personality-wise, he has, like, a huge ego and views himself as being, like I need to be important and I need to do this and this.
He didn't just drink the Kool-Aid. He was raised in the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though Iden is a better pilot than him.
Yes.
Like, that's one of the things stated in there.
And that's always in his head.
Yeah, always. I enjoyed them going on their missions. They had a few missions. One was like crashing a wedding, and they had to like steal a information USB drive, hollow drive. I don't know what it was exactly.
Yeah, they were looking for blackmail information.
Yeah, I think so. For the father of the bride, I think is what it was and stuff. But stealing the blackmail.
Yeah, that was kind of a classic like spy first like mission scene, right?
Yeah,
is what it kind of felt like.
So I thought that was a fun way of, and it highlighted a little bit of like, well, here's what Dell's good at, and here's what Sin can do. Sin has an idyllic memory. Is that right? Eidetic?
It's ironic we can't remember.
She can like remember everything identical to whatever it was, right? So
it's
identical
I know
memory.
Idyllic.
Yeah, I didn't write it down.
Donk, do you know?
Identic? It's something like that. So she can always recall everything, which I can't do.
I think it's idyllic, but I don't know.
Yeah. So we learn about that. We get to see like Dell being good,
and that becomes very important.
Yeah, sure.
That little detail,
eidetic memory. Yeah.
Okay.
So, getting a little bit of each of them on this mission and getting a feel for how they all work, and like they all had to issue in their own plans of how to do it. And they chose Iden's, but like one of my favorites was Hask being like, "Well, I was gonna be a bounty hunter."
Yeah,
and it's like, what? Why? I was just gonna come in there and take what I needed. And like his was such a different approach. So like, but it really all of those kind of helped color the characters.
Yeah,
based on like what their ideas were and stuff. I thought that was good. But they achieve that. They get promotions and they get the Corvus. And I'm like, yes, the Corvus. I know that name.
Yep.
So that was all.
Yeah, and we started like giving names to like the pilot and the co-pilot. And I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. One of my, not that I dislike what we got, but once we went on like the second, or I guess it was technically the third mission, like we were on that mission the rest of the book. Yeah. Pretty much, you know. It's like, oh, we're not on the Corvus. We're not doing those things. Yeah. But it was still fine.
But you can't take your Corvus pilot to the secret, like, partisan infiltration mission, you know?
Well, and it's another thing, too, because what I was expecting was, like, what would a game of this be? It's probably going to be at least 12 missions, you know, that type of thing. But this is not it's not a game. It's not a TV show. It's not a movie. It has we haven't gotten to it yet, a huge twist at the end of the book that only works as a book twist. Because if I could see that character, I would recognize that character in a television show.
Gotcha.
But I can't in a book. Despite me, every once in a while, they would drop something about the mentor, and I'd be like, who is this guy? Mm-hmm. You don't code a character like this unless it's a reveal. Mm-hmm. And in my head, I'm going, I can only think of one person that it is, and there's no way it's that person, is what I thought in my head.
Really?
Yep, and it was that person. So I still got the shock. You don't get that type of thing in any other medium but in a book.
No, I mean, the only way you do it is if, like, they're cloaked and shrouded and done like that or
but
something like
that. But that will give you certainty that it's someone you know.
Sure.
Whereas here, I doubted the whole time.
Well, I mean, we had the same thing with, what was it? Merrick? Was that the right name? There was the, like, Inquisitor. I feel like it was Merrick or some with an M.
Oh, Marok. Yeah,
Marok.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Like, we had the thing, was like, who's in that?
Yeah.
Is that someone we know? You know? And then they just kind of, like, blew up into smoke. And we're like, I guess not. You know? Like,
nope.
All right.
But it was maybe foreshadowing for whatever's going on with the Shadow Troopers, Thrawn, and witches and that type of thing, you know?
Sure.
So
but no, I think joining in with the partisans, I thought it was really cool getting like you had already mentioned Iden, like the way that she kind of gets involved, but all of them had kind of a different method of getting brought into the partisans in some way. Mm-hmm.
It was fun that once like the dreamers were starting to figure out, hey, we have people here. They're like, oh, there's already been 2. How is there? There has to be another. And I want to be like, there's 4. You don't know, and that was fun because they really earned their spots
Yeah.
separately from each other,
Yeah,
which
they
is a
all-
really smart idea.
They all were doing their own things. They
Yeah.
got brought in from different directions and stuff.
Yeah.
I like that Iden was brought in as like a turncoat on the Empire.
Uh-huh.
I also like, I don't remember if I missed it or what, but like at one point she was talking to like her friend, her pilot, who was like beating her as a practice pilot training session.
Yeah.
And he's like, that never happens. Like, are you doing okay? And she was kind of talking about being like shook from the Death Star,
Yeah.
and then started going through like, man, Alderaan. Like, I understand destroying the Yavin base and like all the rebels that are causing problems, but Alderaan was just a peaceful planet, and we destroyed all of it, you know. And like that's and I was like, man, I believed her.
I still do.
I was like, I can't,
Because her
believe-
father told her the best way to lie is to tell the truth.
Sure, and that's a reoccurring theme through a lot of it,
Yeah.
right? Is like, it's not like to tell the truth, but having as much truth in there makes the lie more
Yeah.
believable.
I mean, the best thing about Iden Versio is the contradiction of her, right? Like, she is respectful to people. Like, she actually cares for the people that she thinks like are worthy of that. It's just that she's been programmed to not consider that with these people.
Sure.
So whenever her dad is like, if you want to be a successful liar, you need to marry it in truth. What's the first thing that she does? She says stuff where you're like, I really believe her. Like,
Yeah.
Shouldn't that mean that that's something that she actually feels?
I mean, that's very possible. And,
Yeah.
and if so, I like that kind of pairs well with the game. Because
Yeah,
if you have her
it really
talking
does.
about, like, sure, they weren't, like, with us.
Yeah.
But, like, they weren't aggressors. They were the peaceful, like, planet.
Yeah.
But then you come to Vardos, where it's like, this is a loyal Imperial planet.
Yeah.
And we're doing Operation Cinder to this.
Yeah.
And, like, I understand then, like, if she was already upset there, this is going to make her even more upset because these are
Absolutely.
our people. This is our home planet. This is where we're from. And
Yeah.
we know everyone here is good. You
Yeah,
know?
and
Like,
that works so well, especially with the contradiction of that she experiences, like, in this book itself, because she starts the book and her father says, like, children might die, but they're rebel children. Like, that's not that sad when you think about it. And she kind of has to be like, that's weird, but I accept. And then the exact same thing is said about Imperial children later in the book, and she has to be like, oh yeah, that didn't work. That means the first time didn't make sense, and I was right, you know. And it just creates those little moments of doubt where she eventually will break down and just say, I hate my father, you know.
Yeah.
And like that's the one time in the book that I know for certain she is just telling someone the truth.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I told you before, I have a lot of space where I like kind of forget some of the stuff specifically because I didn't take my notes on it. But them being in the Partisans, I loved the Hask flight. Like he takes, I think it's Staven, and like they get in a ship and he gives him
Staven,
access.
which did you remember Staven from Rebel Rising?
No, I don't think I did.
Yeah, I didn't until I saw. I was looking on either Wikipedia or something like behind the scenes of this book, you know, to see if there's any extra information. And I'm like, oh yeah. I remember the name. I don't remember him very much, but he was
Okay.
in Rebel Rising, so we have seen him before.
That was the Jyn. Was that a Jyn Erso book?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Which
Okay.
she's invoked a couple times in this, as well as like Saul Guerrera's like, what would they say? Like, oh yeah, he had like an adopted daughter or something. You know, they mentioned her a couple times.
Just
So,
not by name.
not by name. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, Staven, I think, was who Hask had, and like he was like one of the kind of leads of
Yeah.
a lot of this the Dreamers, like this last group of partisans that weren't like on Jeddah and weren't with Saw, and they're kind of doing their whatever they're doing to fight the Empire. But
Yeah.
Hask was like trying to gain his trust and took him on a like a I don't know, asteroid flying course is how I pictured it. And like he was talking about how good it was and
Yeah.
how excited the guy was that he was looking at. I love how you're talking about like, I've seen his true face now. Like he's not hiding anything. He's just like, this was great. And he's like, he's going to remember this as long as he doesn't fly with Iden. Like that was like his worry. He's like, once he flies with her, he's going to know that I'm not as good as her. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, okay. Which, I mean, which pairs well with like the like not the final fight I guess you have with him, but the one on Jakku when you have to like fly and fight against him there.
Yeah.
Because like, well, you got to beat him, so it's like it's already planted in this book that Iden is naturally
She's better. Yeah.
already. So, they did mention in this that stormtrooper armor is designed to dissipate energy.
Yep.
I wrote that down, being and thinking of isn't it supposed to kill you when you get shot? I was thinking of the Stormtrooper fan film.
Yeah, the injured Stormtrooper.
Yeah,
Brian Finifer, I think. Did
I think so. Yeah, where it's like I thought this stuff was supposed to kill you if you got shot.
Yeah.
And I thought of that, and it made me laugh. But I was like, oh, dissipate energy, interesting.
Yeah.
But in that same scene, like she's thinking about that, and I believe she has to kill all those Stormtroopers in that moment. And I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
It's like it's definitely one of those things where like she's going deep, and her dad told her like you will have to do things against the Empire to gain their trust. So.
I think that moments like that really work when you put them in context of characters like Cassian Andor. Like the first thing we meet Cassian in Rogue One, and he kills Tevik. You know, and shoots him in the back.
Yeah.
You know, as he hugs him.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, like this guy is like, no, he's a soldier. He will do these things, and maybe you shouldn't trust him. You know, I love that we can do that for both those characters now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was Sin's date. Like there was a guy that she was getting to know,
Yeah.
right? Like she was having to be a love interest. She was, I think
was-
she was brought in as like a slave,
Yeah.
or had been a slave. One of the two.
Sin.
Sin.
They did like cosmetic surgery to.
Well,
make
yeah, they
her-
did that
yeah.
too. They were trying, which
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that they kind of talk about that too, because
Yeah.
like she knew, and the other guys didn't realize what it was, and it's like, well, we can get your body back as close as we can afterwards, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, dang, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Is. I think Sin's my favorite character in this.
Sure.
Yeah. She had like her moment at the end, because I feel like you get this a lot where it's like, no, you don't understand. It's like I do understand. No, you don't. And like you're always kind of like, you don't own grief, you know. Like I want to be like, I can at least like empathize with you. But when she's like, you don't understand, I will never forget this.
Well, sure, yeah.
Hit me like a
I want to
freight-
get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be there
you
yet.
don't wanna be there?
I want
Okay.
to talk about the date and the guy first too, because
Okay,
that guy
Sure.
there is like a big part of that too.
Yeah.
And also during this scene is the same time you were talking about the mentor. So the mentor was someone else in the Dreamers, right?
Yeah.
That was talking about I don't know. I guess he was kind of there as like help and consulting and trying to move the Dreamers along with stuff, especially after Saul's death, right?
Yeah.
But during their date is when I was like, I think I know who the mentor was.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I don't know if that's when you were thinking about it too, but they were talking about
Once the first time they bring up Steela, I was like, oh, okay.
So during their date, they say about like the mentor and like some things about
Yeah.
what I don't know. I think like he knew Saw and he
Yeah.
used to be there with Steela and he was there for her death, or I don't know if he said he was there for her death, but he was there for Steela
Yeah.
and with Saw afterwards and stuff too. And they mentioned about a goddaughter that joined Saw, and I didn't know if that was supposed to be for Jin. And I was like, I don't know how that works for that, so I don't know who the goddaughter thing was. But it was around that time I'm like, knew Steela, and I'm like, if it's supposed to be someone we knew, I only know Steela from a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I don't know Steela a whole lot. So that's when I started being like, I think I know who this person could be. And then my first name I came up with was a wrong name. I was like, no. Shoot, is his name Corvus? Is that right? Who's the one for Padme?
Oh, yeah.
That was the first name that popped in my head. I'm like, no.
Yeah,
That was
What's
a
his
Padme
name?
story.
The senator guy. Yeah.
I want to say it's Corvus or
Can't be Corvus. That's the name of the
I
ship.
know, but that's what stuck in my head. But I thought of him
Yeah.
first. I'm like, no,
The
that was
banking clan guy.
yeah, that was the Padme
Clovis.
story. Clovis, that's it. Yeah.
Clovis. Too close to Corvus.
Yeah. So I was thinking of him originally, and I was like, no, that's not right. And I was like, and I'm like, I have the guy, and I'm like, I gotta think of his name. I gotta think of his name. So I just had the guy in my head for a minute, and I couldn't think of who he
understand,
was there. But that was the scene where I'm like, I think I know who this guy is.
Were you doing what you do like in Cobra Kai? You're like, no, I'm not going to say it's him until they reveal it.
I mean,
Or
I had
were you
my
like-
assumption for it.
or did you like-
but I didn't write down.
You didn't write it down.
I know it now.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, because I was still like, I did like, and that was one of the things I liked about the book too. That I said they implemented little bits of story about who this person was. That was good for the book.
Yeah.
But also, like, if you kind of had some ideas of other elements of Star Wars that you've watched or whatnot, you might get more out of that than someone else who's like learning about who this person was.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of cool.
That was cool.
But no, if we want to talk about Sin, like, getting into that, because like
it's so rare that
I feel like we need to go through that whole bit though. Cause
No, I
like,
understand. I get
that
you.
was one of the. I feel like that part of the book was a lot.
I just wanted to make sure that because once I remember that, hey, this is something I wanted to talk about, I just wanted to say it because I don't want to forget it. But it's so easy for me to get emotional at like a visual medium or something that I can hear, see, you know, that type of thing. Whereas reading a book, there's like a few times I get like really emotional.
I get that.
But Sin made me really emotional in that time. I'm not really sure exactly why, but I just it was the best response to "you don't understand" that I've ever heard. It's like, oh no, yeah, I do not understand what that's like.
Yeah,
because we all understand grief, but we also understand, and now years later, I'm over it, or it's past, or it doesn't hurt anymore. But that's because I can't picture it anymore. But someone that can perfectly every day at recall, it's gonna be impossible.
Sure.
To get over that.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
No, I mean, if I wouldn't mind going through that part of it, I guess, too.
Yeah.
Because I think that's an important part, and I think the context for it means a lot as well.
Yeah.
Because I guess for the rest of it, like there's a part Staven had like a love interest or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're on a mission. Nadine? No. Nadine's that's Crix Nadine.
Crix Madine.
Right? Okay, so maybe it is Nadine. Has wants something else on this mission. They've timed it all. They should be leaving. They're not leaving yet. Things go bad, and this person ends up dying on this mission.
Yeah.
And Staven is like real upset and at a loss.
Yeah.
And they all get back, and they go through a whole find the spy kind of thing, which they pull out the guy who like used to be an Imperial like IBS agent.
Yeah.
And do all that kind of stuff, and eventually find him because they've set a bunch of breadcrumbs to point at him.
Sure.
But in all that and figuring all this stuff, Staven decides that they're going to do a new mission now, and that was that they were going to bomb a factory, right? And they're like, okay, well, we can bomb a factory. That's fine and stuff like that. But then he adds in, like, the thing they don't realize is our real target are the kids that are coming to visit the factory.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what?
Right.
And then that's what this mission is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then it felt like it got so heavy.
Well, that's when you're like, oh yeah, they're from Saul's group.
It felt so much more like a part. And I think that's one of those things where like we talked about like them being partisans. Like this doesn't sound like Luke and Leia would want to do this.
Yeah.
You know? It doesn't sound like the rebels in Rebels would want to do this.
I don't think Luthen would do this.
No.
And that's how bad it is.
Yeah. No. It was a crazy,
I don't know. Maybe you would. I don't know.
It was a crazy moment. And that was like the mentor then stood up and was like, I can't let you guys do this.
Yeah.
This is terrible. And like there's an argument over that. But
it's not like it's like 10 kids or 20. It's 400 kids
that are going to be there.
Like it's a whole school. Mm-hmm. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, we go on the mission and we follow Sin for it. And Sin's the one that's like she's carrying the device and everything. Yep. And there was a moment where she meets another kid who's just like, hey, how you doing? And like they're playing like these teenagers, her and this other guy who was like her love interest, right?
And they look young, so they can get away with it.
Yeah. But I guess he also, what was he? Was he like a dog?
He's an alien species. they said that like they're considered beautiful by most humans, but they're not human.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I forget what they called him.
I can't remember.
It was enough that they'd be noticed, so like he was kind of cowled up and stuff too. But yeah, her going in there and like having interaction with this kid and like talking with them, and not only is it affecting me, it affects her. Yeah. And she changes the timer so that it takes longer rather than the short time frame. And her thought was that
pride
people
will
leave.
Characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, good. And that's one of my things too, where I'm like, I feel like not all of Inferno, Inferno is Imperial. Yeah. But I feel like Iden, Del, and Sin aren't just bad.
Sure.
I feel like they believe the Empire's right and they're trying to do good things for like the good of the galaxy.
Which I sympathize with. Like growing up the way that I did, and then like kind of like having like a crisis of faith, and then like exploring a lot of different faiths. Like I'm gonna go to a bunch of different churches. Like you really understand that people sometimes don't choose their beliefs. They were just born like and raised this way, and like it's not their fault they believe these things. Like they need to be confronted with certain beliefs that like, and then you know that they might change as they grow up. But sometimes it's like I cannot blame you for believing these things, but I do not understand. But like there, you had a character that like believes in the Empire 100% and being like, but it's wrong.
Yeah,
you know, I just love those moments because we never get those for Imperials. I like to laugh as they crash. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But, yeah. Here or I wept. Get
attacked by a loft cat.
Yeah.
You know?
I know exactly. Or they're being chased for 4 hours they're chasing one for 4 hours.
Yeah.
I like making fun of them, but here I got like just so emotional, and that and Christie Golden is the author of this book, and that's pretty rare. Christie, you did it.
Oh yeah. No, I got to that part, and like it was one of those moments where I'm like, I gotta finish this part of this.
Yeah.
I can't not know what happened.
Not
on
continue.
This, right?
Yep.
So like I went through the rest of that part.
When a good book is going, man, it's some of the best times.
Yeah.
I gotta find out what happens next.
But no, they do that, and then they go to leave, and the bomb hasn't gone off. So her love interest kind of person, which it's one of those things where even Aiden has talked to her, being like, "Are you invested in this person?
Sure.
And like, do you need any help with anything?"
Fake it till you make it
like,
is a saying because it actually works.
Sure, yeah. But it's also like in the scenarios that everyone else is in, they aren't trying to fake a relationship to be able to be into this thing where she was. And we have kind of a moment that is it's weird because like it's a bittersweet kind of thing because he believes in what they're doing and is doing this for the partisans and his family and everything. And she's like, just stay with me. Don't, because they all have like these vests that can also explode.
Sure.
And they kiss and he runs back in there, and it was interesting. They said that like he blew up, but I assume his is smaller than the thing they set, and then later on that thing set. But I imagine that like the first one also sent a lot of people out because this exploded, and then that exploded, and not as many people got caught in the blast of everything. So all these kids didn't get injured, which was great, or anything. But
like, it's one of those things like fire in space, like, unfortunately, what people that do those type of things do is they let off a bomb, and then they'll wait 5 minutes and let off another in the exact same spot because you attract attention. People don't run. They go towards it, try to figure out what's going on. So I thought of that in that moment. I was like, you know what? The story's trying to do this. Stick with this.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. I also picture them as being in maybe different places too, a little bit, because I don't know how big the factory is and how far he got back into it and stuff too. But no, the thing with that, and I think Sin talked about it too, was like I definitely felt like she cared for this person. Yeah. But then there's also a thing of like he was willing to sacrifice his life to go back in there to do this mission that I didn't want to do. And I'm like, that's a good point. It's like, so did you cared for this person, but they were going to do a terrible, terrible thing, and like.
It's the power of belief.
How
like,
angry
you can reason yourself out of doing bad things, but like belief can make you do terrible things and think you're right.
Sure, yeah, yeah. But no, I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about like having the love interest aspect of it. Like if I care for this person so much, but then find out like I can't believe they're gone. I can't believe this, and then it's like, but wait, the reason they're gone is because they were sacrificing their life for this. And it's like, what does that do? What does that do to Sin there? Where she's thinking about that kind of thing too. Was the other side where I'm just like, that's why I'm like, it's bittersweet. Because like I feel like they have a relationship there, but then also because of what he does, like I feel like she gets real torn on like what her feelings are for him now.
Definitely,
even with him gone.
I mean, to the point where the person that never forgets anything forgets like something that blows her cover. You know,
the language things, right?
Yeah.
No, so that part, and this I think adds a little bit more towards what you were talking about, where now her cover has been blown a little bit, but the thing with Aiden that is talking about is like I do like their conversation where she says like with time you'll move past all the terrible things you've done. You'll forget, it'll become cloudier. Sometimes people don't have a memory, they have a memory of the memory, right? Or a memory of telling the story, but you don't really remember what it was that you're saying. You just remember, well, this is what I told before, so this is what happened.
Your perception's your reality.
Yeah.
Yep.
But for her and her eidetic memory, like she'll never forget what happened. She'll never forget the explosion, how she cared for this person, like all these kind of things.
What he was willing to do. What actually,
all those moments will be stuck in her mind forever.
Yeah. And
that is definitely like a gut-wrenching like kind of feeling of like I can never forget this.
Yep.
Like just imagine, like trying to imagine whatever the terrible things are that you can, and then being like that will be stuck in my memory forever. And anytime I recall that memory, it will just be exactly what I saw.
The best part of the book. I think sometimes Star Wars can be guilty of throwing you a wink and being like, remember all this, everybody? We're doing it again. It's like, remember how you feel when you watch Star Wars. But I value when Star Wars makes me feel something I've never felt before. I've never felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, loved it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't trade it for anything.
No.
Really good moment.
Yeah. I was not expecting why she wouldn't be in Battlefront 2 to come down to Iden, right? Did you?
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was going to be like they're going to take her, they're going to torture her, they're going to kill her, like something like that. Like kind of what happened to Ison, is that his name? I think there was the Imperial ISB that they caught earlier on, right?
Yeah, I can't
and they
remember his
took
name.
him and tortured him, and I forget what it was, but it was one of the Ison. It said about like it took 7 hours for Ison to die, but they tortured him for it, and I thought that's what they were going to do to Sin.
Yeah. I gotta admit, I completely thought those crystal robot things are gonna come in and save everybody.
Oh yeah.
Yep, no one's dying. That's what I thought.
Do we even talk about that?
Yeah.
So much of this stuff's happening.
So much.
And Dell's doing a side quest with Parkwando or Park like something with a P.
Yeah,
I forget what the name is, but
fan.
yeah, but like they're going to like this weird underground location or something like that, and finding these like robot guys with like crystal organs.
They're like rock mummies.
Yeah, and they're trying to figure out what these things are, and I'm like, what are these things? Are these Zepho related?
They remind you of those
something else.
What
What is this stuff?
What is that one tomb that has like 1,000 Chinese like soldiers in it? They're like rock statues. I thought of that.
Like Mummy 3.
Yes, like Mummy 3,
Mummy 3.
with Jet Li.
Yeah.
The Dragon Emperor. But yeah, I kind of thought it was something like that, and they were like, well, maybe this is like the actual species that used to be here. Maybe they're like mummified and inside of it. Then they cracked them open. I'm like, I don't know what they are. But the idea that they're like ancient caretaker droids for the dead is so metal.
Sure.
And it was such a beautiful, haunting thing, man. I did not expect that to happen.
So we have the death of Sin and the death of a few people, I guess, over time, and the bodies just kind of disappear, right?
Yeah, the Terracotta Warriors is
Terracotta,
what it is, from the first Quinn Emperor.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of.
Jet Li.
Jet Li.
The death of a lot of people just kind of their bodies go missing, and no one knows why.
Yeah.
And then at one point we get to see the collection of a body from one of these like robot things.
Yeah.
So it is weird that it's just like they're just made to like we pick up these and we take them and we take care of the bodies so that
but
they're not just left around.
They do it like really respectful, like they cradle the bodies.
Well, yeah, they didn't come in
slow.
They didn't just like throw it over their shoulder or anything either, you know. And I didn't know what they were gonna do. I know, do these things attack stuff, or they, what are they? But yeah,
it just it has that Star Wars mystery you need.
Yeah,
like you need something where it's like, what's that? Like I don't know. I might not ever know.
Yeah,
but that was it.
Well, how about the mystery of who the mentor is?
Yep.
Like, I thought that was a fun thing because
up until they said the name, there was a part of me that's like, no, I would have heard about this.
Yeah,
is what I hear in my
really?
head. But because my Star Wars trivia did not focus on the Clone Wars, I did not do a deep dive on this character.
Yeah.
Which, if you're still avoiding spoilers, I don't know why you got 40 minutes into it, but the Lux Bontari.
Yeah. No,
appears in the story. Not completely by surprise, because I'm going like, no Steela, and like there's only one person I can think of but it can't be them, so I would have heard about it. So nope, it's Lux. Lux is back.
I was thinking about him back then where I'm like, okay, well, Steela and Saw, there's that Clone Wars episode, and there was that one guy who was with Ahsoka, and they were there, and then I was like, Clovis. I'm like, no, not Clovis. Dang, what was that guy's name? And I was like trying to remember, like, Lux. Lux was his name.
You know, like, and all the clues are there. Like, he knows how to, I thought it was so charming that Iden, after all of the planning, didn't consider public speaking until the moment she actually had to do it. It's just so funny to think about her mindset, everything she's thinking of, and then like, oh, you got to be you actually have to do this. She's like, oh crap, I have to actually do this. So having the son of a, very respected separatist senator know how to publicly speak makes a lot of sense. Lux would be good at that.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
And he talked about having a goddaughter.
Yeah.
So like, there's some elements where I'm like, man, there's a lot of time there from Clone Wars to this. Like, I wonder.
He talked about having an imperial family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which I mean makes sense. Yeah. Like, I think like once the Empire takes over, most of the Separatists are going to join into the Imperial, because what else are you going to do?
Sure.
Unless you become a rebel, or I mean, there was some that were like, we're still Separatists, and then they crushed them pretty quick, So
but I
there's a lot of story, I feel like, in between where
is.
I'm like, I wonder what all we can get from Lux more so. But it was really cool to have a reveal of him. He was not who I was expecting to have in this book.
Yeah. Me either. Whenever the mentor is like, oh, there were some girls that, I used to hang out with, but I never really didn't, I'm going like, oh my God, he's talking about Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I know that girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really cool. And then I was really upset that he died.
I was too. I was not happy for that.
And then when he died, I was like, man, I'm really shocked no one told me about this. Or I never fell into it. I bet you there's had to have been a couple of times where someone's like, who do you want to come back? And I'm like, Lux Bontari. And like, you dummy. But then I get to the end of the book.
Sure. No. Which they wait until the epilogue for that.
Yeah,
right?
they do. Which was really
they go
good.
through a lot, and they have that. Like all the dreamers have been taken care of now. The mentor's been taken care of.
Yeah.
So the Imperials go back and they go back to their stuff.
And they've set up the book so well in that like Iden is constantly noticing if someone has their blaster set to stun or not. Mm-hmm. So it just sets it up so perfect as an epilogue.
Yeah. So like getting back to that, I love that her she's in there thinking about Sin.
Yeah.
And that, and like her and Del are there too, but there is that moment where Del says like, well, when you came back from over there, you had your blaster set to stun.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what? It's like, so when the book says like, then she shoots him.
I know.
I'm like, you mean she shot him with stun?
Yeah.
She didn't shoot him.
Sure.
Because like also like he was the one who's like, no, let's not blow up this factory with kids and everybody in it. You know, like it's another one of those things where it's like, well, he doesn't seem like he's all bad. He's trying to do what he feels is right too.
I know.
These ones feel like they're trying to do what's right, but it's at the expense of anybody on the other side. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like, I think Hask is that other far one side.
Yeah.
And then like Staven became that other far the other side, right? Like I will do whatever I need to. As long as the Imperials win, I'll do whatever I need to as long as the Imperials lose.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I think Iden and Lux fall in that middle ground where it's like, I just want to do the right thing, and it's not at the expense of anything. Mm-hmm. Just, fighting for what I love, not against what I hate. Like one of those kind of ideas.
It will still take Iden a bit to get there, but she will get there.
But this book set up so much of those.
This book solves all the problems I had with the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it was done so by design. I didn't know.
And by the end there, like her and Del talking, I felt like there's something more between them than you get when you start off the game and stuff too.
Agreed. Definitely agreed.
Like I think there's small elements there. Like Del is like, I'm doing whatever Iden wants kind of thing. But is that because he believes in what she believes? Is it because he cares for? What kind of reasons are there? Yeah. And can it be a mixture of the both?
My favorite thing about their relationship, at least in this book, is like Del always knows what to say. Like, I think that she finds great comfort in being able to be comfortable with him because she's comfortable with nobody. I mean, Gideon, she can be comfortable with, but that's because they have such a huge history. Mm-hmm. But she never meets somebody and is comfortable with them, but she's comfortable with Del immediately. Yeah. I think there's a lot of, like, I don't know, she's able to just kind of, like, de-stress with somebody, and that's probably what they built their relationship on. They just don't get to see it very much. Mm-hmm.
But no, I mean, I wonder if we'll see Iden in any other things in the future. If we'll see Lux in any other things in the future. Like if the implication at the end is that he's just stunned and wasn't actually shot and killed, which is what I think they're going for, it'd be cool to see him. I mean, there's also a lot of room there from when this takes place to the last time we saw him before. Of like, can we see him show up somewhere else too, or what's his Imperial life like, or I don't know, but. But no, I ended up liking this book a lot, and I think the focus on the four characters of Inferno Squad did really well for me. Even having a character that I'm like, well, I don't know this person. They're not in the game at all. Yeah. So who is this person? I cared about them a lot. I liked them a lot, and felt for them probably the most in the book at a certain point than I did for anyone else in the book. Yeah. So it was definitely good, and ties into the game I think really well. I was waiting to see if it like butted right up to like she's caught on a rebel vessel at the beginning of Battlefront II, and I was like, are we gonna go up to that? But we didn't, and they were going on what felt like a different mission first, and then whatever that was might be later on. So I just didn't know how close to the connection it was gonna be. But for this being like a game tied book, I think I like this one better than Scars. Jedi.
Oh yeah,
like I think this one did a lot better. On
I think it's
of the
comparable
aspects.
To Twilight Company, the other Battlefront book that we
did.
Which
was also fairly.
I did enjoy it more than
it was one. Fairly focused on like the individuals.
Yeah.
It's not quite as tied into like the game. It's just kind of tied into the idea of like if you were soldiers on the battlefield, and that one I liked a lot just because of, especially in the beginning, it felt like a Saving Private Ryan kind of
It felt more
feel.
Battlefront than this did.
Yeah.
This one was more Inferno Squad than Battlefront.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was I like they have both different feels, but
Yeah.
I like the character focus on both.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Agreed.
A lot.
Yep.
So.
Anyway.
All right.
It's a great one.
Yeah, it was really good. I guess at this point too, we have another book that we're going to be covering for the next month.
For next Badonkagonk. Where could we possibly go that could live up to a Battlefront II companion book? Well, can't think of anything.
Is it like a KOTOR book, or what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like another game book?
No.
You just gonna gonna keep dragging it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Gonk, do something. Tell him to stop this.
The next book is going to be, we're going to be jumping into Thrawn Ascendancy. It's going to be book 1, Chaos Rising.
Chaos Rising.
I
okay.
love the Thrawn trilogy that we got, but I need more. And apparently, the only thing we know about this one is it's a prequel to the original trilogy.
Sure.
Original trilogy. I can't say that in Star Wars context. To that other trilogy. This will take place before that. So we'll go back even further and learn about Thrawn.
Yeah, because it's also not the prequel. It's also not a prequel to the original Thrawn trilogy either, because the original Thrawn trilogy was Legends.
You're right.
So it's so complicated. But
Yes.
yeah, we're going to be going back a little bit more, so this is going to be... I'm excited for it.
Me too.
I'm excited for more Thrawn.
Mm-hmm.
The last Thrawn books were really good.
They're amazing.
So
I loved how, like, integrated in the animated shows they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm not going to like is that we're not going to have, because it's being prequel to that, is we're not going to have dang, never mind. I forgot his name. So
Vanko.
yeah, that's not right.
Eli Vanko.
Eli.
Our favorite
Eli.
Imperial. I know. You're right. I didn't think about that. Damn, I don't want to read it now.
Because I liked him. I liked him a lot in the first book, and then we got less of him as it kept going, you know. And I was like, oh man. And now this prequel one, we're not gonna get him either. But
I have since learned in Ahsoka, you know, they casted to play what's his name? Ezekiel, the one stormtrooper that's with Thrawn that has like the gladiator face. Enoch. Yeah. He's played by the dude that plays Amos in The Expanse.
Yeah.
And apparently when he got casted, everybody's like, it's Eli Vanko! Because why else would you... You know, I was like... And then when I heard that, I was like, man, that would have been really cool. But I like what we got, but like that would have been kind of cool.
Sure.
Cast him as that character.
Getting to see Eli.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Just because I love that actor, too.
But yeah, we'll be doing that, and the next podcast is going to be September 26th.
Absolutely. I am shocked. I just looked at the time. How is it 4:33?
It's 4:33.
I could have sworn it would have been 4 when I looked at that.
Well, it's not.
Well, let's
been
talk
30
about
minutes.
let's move our attention on to fun things, Aaron.
Like
Like to act like I canceled.
I was wondering I'm like, where are you going with this? I'm like, it's not the one I had in my head, so it must be something else. But no, it's not.
Yeah.
No, I heard about that. I don't remember where I heard about it. I didn't see an article, so it was probably like chat or a message or something like that. But I was a little bummed just because I hadn't heard that it had been confirmed for a season 2 to begin with, but then I heard that it's been like confirmed to not have a season 2.
Yeah.
And
I mean, when something like that comes out like merely a month after it's done, he's like, okay, like Ryan Johnson still has a trilogy coming, right? Like we haven't like canceled that, but like this got canceled, you know, apparently. I don't know. I guess there wasn't an actual official announcement, was there?
For season 2?
As soon as it started coming up online, like Acolyte canceled, I legitimately I turned off social media. Like I was just like, I do not have the energy for the dumb war that is about ready to be fought again.
I do want to say I saw some stuff too, and I think both sides of people who are happy it's done and sad that it's done are both going at it in very terrible ways.
And people don't know how to talk anymore.
And I wish they wouldn't. Like I saw just some responses and stuff of it, and just I'm sorry. I'm glad for the people who are happy for it. I'm sorry for the people that aren't. Like I'm bummed about it too, but just like, I don't know. Some people
I'm not happy for the people that are excited for it.
Some people. I mean.
Well,
it's
I only say that because like I'm not a. What's a franchise I don't want? I don't love Transformers, right?
Okay.
Like I like the first movie. Like, this is good, but some of the other movies, I'm like, I'm not really for it. But if they came out and said we're not making any more Transformers movies, I'm not going, ha ha. You know, I'm like, I'm bummed for the people that liked that. Continue to like it, just because I don't watch it, and I don't have to watch everything in a franchise. You know, like I can watch the things that I like, the things I don't like, I don't have to watch. But that's not the case here. We have to make sure everybody knows our opinions at all times. and it must be correct 100% of the time, despite that's impossible. You know, it's one of those things.
I mean, I know that, like, the difference there is that, like, I don't know if you were ever a Transformers fan, right?
Sure.
So, like, as opposed to, like, if you're a really big, Matrix fan,
Yeah.
and then they start making movies more again, and you're like, well, I don't like any of these.
I mean, I don't
like. I think some people feel like they've lost that thing that they really like. I wish that they wouldn't come at it the way they do.
I don't watch the little Jedi show. You know, like if that got canceled, I wouldn't be like,
Sure, you wouldn't be like, all right, cool, it's gone.
I would not care.
And I wonder why that doesn't get hate.
Well.
See, no one cares about that, right?
Yeah.
That's a canon, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's High Republic canon. I wish people would just kind of come at it with more respect from both sides, because things sometimes often starts at a 10 instead of starting like down here.
Yeah.
And then because someone does something more, it can escalate. But sometimes I feel like people just start the escalation from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, because there's no subtlety anymore. Like everybody talks as if they are writing a YouTube title. Like it can't be like, here's my problems that I had with the Acolytes. Like, here's Aka shit, and if you liked it, you're dumb, and it's got to be like clickbaity, and you need attention. It's the only way you can get people to engage with you. And then if someone's like, I don't really agree and I don't really want to talk about it, it's like, well, then you're trying to stifle my opinions. It's like, no, I don't care to talk about this.
And I don't think it's everybody. I think it's like there's a very vocal grouping of that that really pushed that, and I think that they overshadow the people that have legitimate issues or concerns or whatever.
I understand,
so
and
I think that while that is a case, I don't know. I just saw a lot of stuff that was just very heated over this, and I understand people being upset or happy about it or whatever, but you can also still, while having whatever feelings you are, respect someone else at the same time. And it sucks that our fandom loses that a lot.
Oh yeah.
Rather than
on the other side, the people that are like, if you didn't like it, you're a bigot. It's like, that's not true. Come on. There are certainly all the people that it's hard to talk about, but I get very upset.
Sure.
Not only is it the people that I don't agree with, it's probably even more so the people that I do agree with. The stuff that they're doing, I don't agree with.
No.
In that regard.
Yeah.
It's very upsetting.
But as far as Acolyte goes, I did want more. I hope we get more stories of it in the future at some point.
We're getting books and stuff, right? I thought they announced that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I try not to look at anything.
Sure.
Just so I don't get, because once I start looking at some stuff, I'll get more and more, and then I'll start getting spoilers. So the stuff I look into is usually not related to anything that we cover on channel stuff lots of times, just for spoiler reasons. But I would love to see what kind of plans they could have had going forward with stuff. I enjoyed seeing the Jedi being at a little bit more of the height of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I remember episode 1 and people were like, oh, we're seeing fights at the height of the Jedi. And it's like, well, we actually aren't still, if anything, kind of seeing SWTOR animatics, animatics, is that the right words? The cinematics that they put out for Star Wars The Old Republic had some of the best Jedi fighting in it, and that one feels more of this is height of the Jedi, especially if you want to go into why are they so good at fighting? Well, because they're fighting the Sith, and there's actual war things happening.
Sure.
That stuff had a lot, but getting to episode 1, it's well, there's been peace for a lot of years, so it's are these guys really good at fighting? It's well, yeah, I guess so.
It's actually they're really good at training.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between actual Mortal Kombat and training for a fight.
Yeah. So the further back we go, the more I think we get of these guys are really good at fighting, and this one had some of the best fights in newer Star Wars, and I was excited for that.
Yeah.
The idea of
it's the only thing that I will claim is objective. The fighting was awesome.
Yeah, and I think everyone agrees.
I understand I'm not right, but
I think everyone
didn't like.
I think everyone, even people that didn't like the Acolyte series, enjoyed the fights that they had.
Yeah.
But what they were gonna do, I am very curious on Plagueis and Palpatine kind of stories and stuff, and how does that, what of that could we have seen more so? Because we only have heard Plagueis in canon now.
Yeah.
We've never really gotten to hear more or see more of him, or what was he like.
It's not a story the Jedi would tell you, but it might not be a story Disney tells you either now. So I don't know.
And I get bummed because I feel like I don't know. It's hard to. I'm not in a writing room. And one of the things that bummed me about the new sequel trilogy was that I wish that they would have come at it with here's a vision of what we'd like to tell in our trilogy.
100%.
And we're going to like try to keep a through line rather than just taking it a movie at a time.
I wish that Lucas had done that. Like, I legitimately wished I could see the versions that Lucas had in his head before the Backlash episode 1.
Yeah.
Like, what was, like, obviously he took Jar Jar out of a lot of stuff. Like, episode 2, he's like, hey, you know.
What's up? Bye.
Yeah, bye, you know. Like,
Episode 3, he cries.
He obviously had much bigger plans with that, you know. So I wish that would have happened, but probably more so with the sequel trilogy, I would say, because Lucas still is a singular voice, whereas in the sequel trilogy, all the voices rose up, and Disney's like, what do we do? Let's respond. And there's not much artistic integrity when you do something like that.
Sure.
You know?
I get what you mean.
I only care for the storyteller in that regard.
But like, there's been a lot of, like, I mean, you mentioned the Rian Johnson trilogy, and while like Last Jedi is not my favorite, sometimes like, well, that would have been one vision of a story. Yeah. And I would have liked to maybe seen what that could have been. Same thing with like after Solo came out, a lot of projects kind of got canned or canceled or whatnot, and there was a lot of stuff in that I heard about where I'm like, I would have liked to have seen what this could have done. Yeah. So this is another one of those situations where it's like, I feel like regardless of what you did or didn't like about Acolyte, the only thing now is that we've just lost more stories at this point that we won't get now, or we'll have to get in other mediums, or they got to really change up. And I enjoy seeing more of the stories and the lore, because when I grew up, I didn't have any of that. I just had 3 movies, and I had 6 movies. And then it kind of was like, oh, now I get the Clone Wars, and that's my Star Wars until, you know, it just every week or every other week or whatever it was coming out. Like, I got Clone Wars now, and that's it. Sometimes now I think for people it can feel like too much Star Wars, but I enjoy getting, especially, I think I struggle more, and I talked to you about this before, with like imagination. Yeah. Where like picturing what a book is telling me, I have more trouble with that than visually getting to see it. So I enjoy getting a chance to see like, here's a 6-episode series, or here's a new movie or whatever. Absolutely. And the more of those we lose, the less of that I get. You know what I mean? So I hate the loss of a story or lore that we could have been getting that we aren't going to get anymore.
I hate the like it for a lot of people, they don't like the direction something's going on. Thus, you know, and then to the point where they like, we're making up conspiracies and hating things. But like, I respect trying something different. You know, I think Star Wars can get stagnant when it's just trying to be like, you know that thing where it's like, oh, that feels Star Wars. And everybody thinks they know what that means, but it's different for every single person. Sure. Like what Star Wars actually is. Like, I actually like to experience someone's version of Star Wars that I don't agree with, or it isn't my thing. It's like, oh, that's a new thing. That's cool. And now I feel like Disney's will just learn the same exact incorrect lesson they did the last 50 times this happens, and just try to, all right, well, we'll go back with the tried and true stuff, you know? And I'll be there for the tried and true stuff. It's fun, but I like different like attempts. Do something different, tell that different story. I mean, I'm right there with some people where it's like, how did this show cost that much money to make? You know, I'm also not a film auditor, so I have no idea how money is spent when it comes to this type of thing, and I'm sure 99% of the people with that criticism as well have no idea what they're talking about, just that it seems very expensive, you know. So shouldn't it at least, you know, some people might not like Rings of Power, but they're going to be like, but it looks like they spent some money, you know? Sure. Not so with the Acolyte. Like, there were some parts of it I like because it almost feels Garage Band look to me. Like, it did have, like, that kind of lived-in, like, let's just go film over here because that's what we got feeling to it. So I can see the criticism of it being too expensive and that type of thing, which I think is far more the reason it got canceled than, you know, some of the other stuff that's put out there as the reason that got canceled. Yeah. I don't know. I'm bummed. I hope we get the chance to explore those stories at the very least, like in comic book form. Continue with those characters, especially Kamir.
Well, see, because like in the same sense, because Clone Wars was canceled, I feel like there's stories that we could have had in Clone Wars that we didn't get in Clone Wars, and we got them in comic book form. And like, yes, we got them, but how cool would it have been to get it in Clone Wars form? You know what? And you lose that whenever, and that one's not like a thing where people I don't think were like, oh, Clone Wars is terrible, so it needs to go, or the budget was an acquisition occurred, so things changed, and then we thought it was done, right?
Well, Yes, I mean that definitely much later, but we also got to think like when Clone Wars started, like Lucas paid for it himself. Mm-hmm. Like if you want to talk about something that was too expensive
to do.
Yeah, like he did that, and also because of the way animation pipeline is, they were already working on season 2 by the time the movie came out. And the movie was lambasted, and season 1 was lambasted. And every Star Wars fan that you talk to is like, "Huh, you don't watch that kiddie cartoon? That's dumb." But now, 10 years later, oh, it's the best thing that ever happened. No one ever complained. Why can't we go back to this? You know, same fucking thing happened. That's happening now. That will happen again later.
But the thing with that, you gotta look at too is that you say the 10 years later, it's the audience that it was made for grew up and they have nostalgia for it.
Exactly.
So you're not saying like it's not that the people who didn't like it before suddenly like it now. I think those people still don't like it. Or I know some people that said like, it's too kidddy for me. But then they kind of watched it and it's like, well, it starts off that way, but like a lot of shows, it grows with its audience.
That's exactly my point. Yeah.
It gets into some really good stuff.
Yeah. Like they didn't have the opportunity to cancel it after, one season of bad reviews because they were already working and investing in it already. Like they believed in the project, so they kept going. And then they can have a slightly better Bounty Hunter season 2. I remember that push where they were really trying to do it and trying to get the audience back. And then we just forget about all those things and just assume that, well, no, that was just good writing that made it like that. No, that was just a lot of hard work, learning from mistakes, and making something better the next time. But we don't have any grace when it comes to storytelling anymore. So we just don't do that now.
Sure.
Now everything's bad, mid, or amazing, and there's no in between.
Bad, mid is in between.
Well, in between the.
In between the mid and the amazing and the mid and the bad?
What I mean is like you bring down all of these artistic expressions to like just like when in my opinion just kind of like buzzwords to get attention.
I also for me I don't get the whole mid kind of thing because like I get bad. Bad is just like I don't enjoy this and I don't want it. Amazing is like it's really good. Mid is like this is okay. It's like well but like everything is typically like mid unless it is falling below mid or above mid. So like like mid is used so often as like
I hate the term
as a bad thing, and I'm like I don't know, like I don't need everything. Like sometimes it's fun to just kind of like there was a show I was watching. There's actually a show that just came back that Mel and I watched that she was like I don't know why I like it. She's like the acting isn't great, the story is not great. It's like it's kind of funny, but sometimes it's not and it's cheesy, but I have fun watching it. Yeah, and I'm like. Well, yeah.
That's all that matters.
There's another show I watched that, like, I feel like it hits all those same kind of notes. Yeah. I watched it recently on Netflix, and I went through 2 seasons, but it took a few episodes for it to really click, to be like, you know what? If I just enjoy and just have fun with this, this can be a real fun ride, even though it's kind of cheesy. The acting's not great. The comedy's kind of funny. There's some real funny moments sometimes, but a lot of it, like, it's just kind of, like, in the middle there. Yeah. And it's just a fun, like, kind of turn off my brain, relax for a little bit, and not think about a lot of other stuff.
I know a lot of my frustration is just the need that we have to compare and to rank things. Like mid is a rank.
Sure.
Because you're comparing it to everything else. In comparison, like in my opinion, comparison is the thief of joy.
But this is why like whenever I have like we do tier rankings, I'm always like, guys, we should not have more S's than we have C's. The C is the average, and that's where almost everything should be, except for the things that really just like perk up above this line here. Otherwise, like, and the F's should be much fewer too than the E's and the D's. Like, mid is where most things should sit.
Why does it upset you that I have more S's than like A's?
No, because
like, if it would, why would it?
Well, the reasoning is that like, well, what makes something an S?
Yeah.
And it's like if you're trying to look at like the idea of like what how is acting, how is story, how are effects, how whatever the things are that you're taking in the category of it, essentially everything should fall into a here's the C, here's the average of everything, and then the things that really somehow break those points should put it up higher, and there should be fewer that really hit that peak.
I get that. Like and I understand that. Like that's the standard you have to make when you're playing that game. My only contention is like I don't want to play the game. Like I don't want to.
I get that.
I'm being forced to compare it. Like and. I feel like that's the least fun part of watching stuff.
Sure. I'm not saying just don't do it. Like I get what you're like. Yours is just don't do it. Yeah. I'm saying for everyone who does. Yeah. This is a whole different conversation.
Well, no, I would say that if I'm playing the game, I'll just play it the way that I play it in my head.
It's the same thing of like when I've heard people like when I hear people like rank someone's looks. So many people put like 7 as like the average, where
Yeah.
I'm like, no, 5 should be an average. C should be an average. That should be what the typical normal, and then it's like what peaks above and what peaks below.
Sure.
I don't know. That's just that's how things should be. It's like when you do testing and stuff like that. So, well, whatever you think Gonk is wrong. Like that's just like when you rank a movie and it's 5 out of 10, that's middle. 5 should not be bad. That should be average. 7 should be it's peaking above, and then 10 should be higher.
I just wish we could find a way to talk about stuff like without ranking things. I understand how efficient it is.
But
all it does
who hates ranking
all
things,
it does is just make people argue.
even you who hates ranking things accidentally rank things all the time.
I know. Me who doesn't have any, faith, I still say, like, God bless you, because that's just the culture that I'm in.
Sure. But if you were eating chicken wings and you ate one, ate the other one, and you were like, oh, I like the other one better, you just ranked it.
I just enjoy both.
No, you didn't. You said, I like the other one better. You didn't say, I enjoy both. You said, I like the other one better. And you've naturally ranked it.
I wouldn't do that.
You did. You have. I've watched you. You do it. Even though you don't like ranking things.
Yeah.
Everyone does it just because you have preferences. But everyone has preferences. So just because someone else likes this is an S and this is an S doesn't mean either one's wrong.
I get you.
I guess
that's
the main issue, I think. Is that,
well, no, the main issue is that you're right. You're 100% right. I literally have nothing to argue with you about. The problem is that people will take that and then just like, rather than be like, that's what that person thinks, it has nothing to do with what I think. No, people don't do that. They go, oh, you think this is a 2? You must think I'm a fucking dummy. That's my problem. That people look at those rankings and think it means something about them. And it's impossible to not do that, which is why I threw out the entire system.
That was the last thing I was just saying, is that your S and
ridiculous.
my S are both S's.
Yeah.
We just should respect how each other ranks things and enjoys things. That's the last thing I was just saying.
Well, I just throw out the system. I don't respect. I just throw it out the system.
But the issue is that if
it doesn't work, let's not do it then.
But the issue is that even though you throw out the system, you also naturally just rank things.
Well, yeah, I'm upset that that's what the culture is, and I'm a part of it.
And it's not. It's not a culture. It's preferences. Before that culture was a thing, before tier ranking ever became a thing, and I don't know when tier ranking became like a popular thing to do.
Yeah.
Everyone had preferences. You would talk about like, oh man, can I not have can I not have a bologna sandwich and can I have a turkey sandwich instead?
Sure.
It's like, well, why? It's like, well, I just like the turkey sandwich better.
Yeah.
You are ranking them. But that's just because it's preference.
Yeah.
And everyone has preferences. And that's what tier ranking is preferences. So like, just because I like Bulbasaur as my favorite Pokemon doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that when someone else likes Charmander as their favorite Pokemon, that's also theirs.
I feel like it's trying to bring objectivity to something that cannot be objective.
I mean, sure, what it really should be is just, here's what my opinion is. But people, like you said, look at it as like, but now you're thinking my opinion's worse or wrong. And it's like, that's not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So that's why I said everyone has their preferences and everyone has their S's. What we should do instead of arguing all those points is just be like, well, I respect why you do that. Like Rick loves The Room. I don't understand why he loves The Room, but he loves The Room. I don't hate that he loves The Room. I just don't like The Room.
I love his love of The Room more than my opinion of The Room.
I guess I don't care about either one.
Yeah,
but if he wants to enjoy it, he can enjoy it, kind of thing. Yeah,
I don't need to compare it to how much you love Star Wars or something like that.
Sure.
Like it doesn't make sense to me.
Sure.
Just take those two things separately.
That's why, like, my whole thing with all the Acolyte stuff is, like, whether you liked it, you didn't like it, whatever it was, I do want our fandom to have the respect towards each other where it's like, you didn't like it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just talk about why you didn't like it. Or let's not. And be like, well, I'm sorry you didn't like it. I did enjoy it. And it's like, okay, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I won't watch it. And it goes back to you saying about, like, the Star Wars kids show where there are people who are going to watch that and kids who are going to like it or not like it.
Yeah.
I don't need to tell them why it's bad and they shouldn't watch it, and I don't need to tell other people why it's good and why they should watch it.
Yeah.
Just let people watch stuff and enjoy it, and I think that's the issue that we fall into.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the issue is that, like, because we do those things, people do think it's objective and then feel no shame at all in going and attacking people on social media over it. Like, how are you not, like, completely ashamed by being one of those people in, the poor Acolyte actress's comments, like, saying this, like, vile shit because you have an opinion on a piece of art? Like, how do we not feel that shame?
I do also. I don't know if it's an internet thing. Yeah. I don't know if it's just like like mentally having issues with trying to like separate stuff.
Yeah.
But I really hate when people target actors for doing their job because they didn't like this this media.
Yeah.
Like it's happened for years.
Yeah.
It happened with Ahmed Best. It happened with Hayden Christensen. It happened with Callie Marie Tran, and it keeps happening where it's like those people are just trying to do the best job they could with what their director told them, with what the script was, with all that kind of stuff. If you want to target anyone who was in charge of making the movie and tell them why you didn't like it. But these actors are not the characters. They didn't ruin the movie. They did their job to the best of their ability. And if you just didn't like their acting, then most of that should fall onto the people who are directing them or who brought them in to be like, here's what I want. It's like, how did you think this was good? And then that's where you can go. But to target people so harshly and to send, like, I've heard of like death threats happening and all kinds of stuff, and I find that
Tony in our chat, like Tony, that's a completely not true. He said, well, to be fair, Amanda Sternberg did make a diss track calling anyone who didn't like the show racist. It was messed up and not cool at all. That is not true. She's calling racist. If you're someone that didn't have any racist talk when you're talking about the Acolyte, she's not talking about you. Quit making everything about you. It's ridiculous, Aaron. I'm sorry. I'm very upset.
I don't know what that one's about.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that or seen that one, but I do think that is it's kind of like whenever you're like, well, and then all the Star Wars fans say this, and it's like, well, not all Star Wars fans say that.
Yeah.
But there are Star Wars fans that are saying that.
100%.
Right?
And it's like to deny that it's happening is never mind. Go ahead.
No, but it's one of those things to try to make sure that like maybe it's the way things are being worded, but like there's definitely and it's how you interpret things, I think, too. But there's definitely, like, I could look at your comment of being like, and everyone who did this went and started tearing apart other people who liked it.
Sure.
And it's like, well, no, not all of them did.
Not all of them do.
But
yeah,
in the way of what we're talking about, I get what you're saying, and it felt like it was a big part. That's why I often try to go like, a vocal group of people did this.
I know.
So I don't know what the wording of any of that kind of stuff was, but it sounds like something that I wouldn't think would happen, but I don't know. I didn't watch it or see it or whatever.
Maybe when we go back to Celebration or something, but my biggest like loss, I feel like it's not even that Acolyte's not going to season 2. I lost my optimism in the fandom. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, it's just like this. Like when we were at Celebration last time, and that poor girl came out like dressed as Padme for episode 2. She had that immaculate costume, and you could see she was so excited to be part of the fandom. And like it wasn't like, sometimes you get an actor in there and you're like, they don't know what they're talking about. They're doing marketing. That's their job, But like you could tell, like she just was so excited. And I remember sitting in the audience as she was on stage and being like, I hope they don't do to her what they've done to so many people. And then they did, And it just broke me. I was just like, all right, fuck it. I just don't trust people anymore. So I hope I get that back. But I feel like I've lost it.
That's for who?
That was for, I can't remember her name right now. The actor that plays May.
Oh, that plays May.
Yeah. Remember she came out like dressed as Padme in episode 2, and I was just like, man, dude, she's so happy right now.
Okay.
Like, that's, I hope that doesn't leave her. And then, Amalda, that's what it is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I don't remember that. I forgot that.
Oh no, it's just one of those things. Like, please don't let that happen. And it happened. It happened probably worse than it has in a long time. And now I'm just, I hate that I feel this way. I want to get it back, but I hate it.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I don't know. I just, whether you are happy or upset about Acolyte or other Star Wars things, just try to respect other people's opinions and thoughts, because like
make it really hard to respect.
Yeah, while I'm bummed and wish we had more Acolyte stories and stuff like that too, I don't want to go out there and like start attacking people who are happy that it's not around anymore. Which, like Eric said, I don't get it. I don't get why you would be happy for people not to get stories. Like if you don't like it, I feel like just don't watch it, Like that's just the thing that you can do. If you're like, this is not very good, don't watch it.
If you want to come up to me and ask me my opinion on something, I'll sit here for hours and hours and hours and talk about it. But you'll never catch me going online and like fighting wars and like treating real people as if they're just props in my pop culture war, It's real frustrating to see.
Yeah. No, I get you. So I don't know. Just try to be respectful, guys, on both sides. So I'm not trying to like. I don't want either side to be an enemy. I want us to be a fandom, is what I want us to be. And I want to, like what I've done with Eric for so many years, is watching stuff that we enjoy and love and being able to just sit and talk about it. And that, I mean, sometimes there's things I like, sometimes there's things I don't like, but I try to err on the positive side of things I like rather than just hating on stuff. And,
I know. I'm just, I just hate that I'm now worried about these poor kids with Skeleton Crew.
Oh, man,
because I mean, look, like, you know, at the very least, Amalda's as an adult, like, these are kids, you know.
And I'm looking forward to that too, because it had such a Goonies feel.
Yeah.
Like, we saw that back at Celebration, and I was like, this looks real cool. I'm
legitimately scared for those kids.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know.
And it's just really sad.
I know a lot of people didn't like the kids in Acolyte that had to play the young May Osha.
Yep.
And like, I know what it's like with like YouTube comments, being on YouTube, like being someone in like something bigger like that. I guarantee you see so much more.
Oh yeah.
And that can definitely be a tough thing. And I feel like maybe back in the day it wasn't as bad because you didn't see as much, but now you can see so much. And just remember that these people are also people. There's a real person on the other end of that screen, and when they see the stuff that you're saying, like they're gonna see it. Like, try to be constructive if you're gonna criticize something. Say about like, here's the things I didn't like, and here's what I would have liked, or things I like. Give some solutions to it too. So many times people just like, they just trash on something, and that's all they do. And it's like all they say is like, this sucks, it's trash, and you're garbage for liking it. And if that's all you give, there's nothing there that I can do about it. The most I can do is be like, well, this guy sucks. You know, I just fight back with the same kind of thing. But if you said oh man, Aaron talked a lot during this thing, and I wish he would have focused more on these aspects. At least then it's like, oh well, okay, maybe he has a point, and I can maybe work on this. So just remember the way that you're responding on either side.
I feel like I'm usually pretty gracious too. Even people that are really rude, I'll usually be like, do they have a point though? If they have a point, like I'll at least like try to engage with the point. But sometimes like there's no point. It's just like to attack people.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that I condemn. I encourage people that, like, I bring up stuff I don't like all the time. I just don't do it in a dick way. You know? So I want to talk about those type of things, but unfortunately, a large portion of the Star Wars fandom, or a portion, I wouldn't even call it large, a portion of the Star Wars fandom has kind of killed my enjoyment of it. So I want to get that back.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, because even though, like you said, like hearing it sometimes or knowing that it's there, it's just sitting in the back of your mind. And I love so much watching something with no expectations or other thoughts and stuff too. Even people being like, oh, have you seen this movie yet? Oh, it's garbage. Well, now I'm going into that movie with that expectation. Yeah. Or, dude, this is the best movie I've watched all year.
Sure.
I'm going into that movie with a different expectation. Yeah. There's so many times I like just going into something and watching it with no expectation and letting the story like navigate me to what I want to feel or what I naturally feel, I guess is what I want to say.
Sure.
So.
Yep.
All right. Any other things on Acolyte?
Oh, my friend, I got so many more. There's so many more.
It's already 5:03, and we didn't get to any of the questions.
Yeah.
But
I look forward to 10 years from now where eventually someone's like, oh, dude, remember Camille and Acolyte? I love this show. What happened? Why did that stop?
See, you know what? I wonder if the people that didn't like Acolyte watched the holiday special.
Yeah.
Because, like, I think I've seen the lowest Star Wars. You know? I think I've seen it.
I've seen the bottom. We are far from it.
I have been there, and this was not it. Was it the best of the best? Maybe not.
Yeah.
But it was not the worst that, like, people I felt like, at least the people that I was hearing about made it out to be.
It's just that, like, I get you. It's just like, for it to be the best of the best or the worst of the worst is to just immediately compare. You know?
Sure, yeah. No, you know what? I'm fine if I have some mid-Star Wars because the more and more Star Wars comes out, the more I'm going to have naturally a preference of these ones are my favorites, these ones are my not as favorites, and these ones are just ones that like are okay, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to happen. Like it is with any franchise. Any franchise has that kind of stuff. However, the thing that I get in all of them, whether it's like, well, I really like the story or I didn't, is I get more lore and more context. And sometimes that helps me with things I like a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes it helps make episode 3 even better, or it helps to make even original trilogy stuff even better, or sequel trilogy. And it's just a matter of getting that stuff to kind of like I need that stuff to come out so I can recontextualize certain things, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes we lose that.
Sure.
We just got a super chat. If we want to read that real quick before we end things, I guess.
Christian
Christian says, you know how Lando Calrissian has met the Ghost Crew from Rebels?
Yep.
Well, how do you think they would react after finding out Lando joined Rebellion?
Yeah, General. I think that Kanan would be disappointed a little bit in the Rebellion. I think that Zeb would be angry. I think Hera would be like, well, let's see what he can do. I think Ezra would like it. Sabine would be dismissive, and Chopper would just look for an excuse to kill some people.
That's what he usually does, right?
Yeah, that's usually what he does.
And then Springer on, I just want to, it said holiday special wasn't George Lucas, though. He condemned it, LOL.
Yeah.
Like, yes, sure, but it was still a Star Wars project that came out, and I feel is the worst Star Wars I've ever seen.
Sure.
So, like, some people won't. That might be Rick's best Star Wars he's ever seen. You know?
I mean,
I don't know. But
he condemned the EU, too. I still enjoyed that.
Yeah, so like the point of George Lucas not being in it, but also like I think that pushes more towards it because George Lucas isn't running the new stuff that we have now.
Yeah,
I think a holiday special was some of is probably for me the worst Star Wars has been because like there's so many things I would have done differently.
And I love George Lucas. You might be hard pressed to find someone that loves George Lucas more, but like I also love storytellers from all over the place that tell me new things. I don't want to just hear the same story over and over again. I want to hear new stories. And Star Wars is so rife for new stories.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? I think we're past our time. We're not going to get to Q&As. Hopefully we get to Q&A stuff. Maybe we'll just try to really, like, I'd like to have a chat Q&A section maybe on the 26th.
When we do a Badonkagonk, that's just Q&A.
Just? Like, we just
it.
talk to chat the
and
whole...
we see if we can get through all the questions.
Well, but they'll keep coming in probably. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
It's a challenge, though. Can we answer them quick enough to both of them coming in? You know? That'd be kind of fun.
Maybe we can do that at some point. So, but guys, we'll be back September 26th for our next Badonkagonk. We're gonna be doing the Thrawn Ascendancy.
Yes, sir.
Right. Chaos Rising. So that's the next book. You guys have a month to get through that one, and we will be talking about it next month. So
absolutely.
And then I don't know when Skeleton Crew. That's
soon.
Is it towards holiday? I think it's towards the
soon.
holiday, November. I'm excited for that. So
Man, I hope.
I look forward to getting a chance to check that out.
I hope
we'll have reactions here on the
I
channel
hope it's
too.
the best thing ever, and everybody ranks it S and talks about how it's the best, and those is what I want.
Yeah,
I will take ranking if people are cool about it.
Gotcha. So December. So we got time before that one comes out. But
yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we will see you guys next month. We'll have some other things I'm sure popping up here on Wave Squadron. So make sure you guys subscribe here to Wave Squadron. And until next time, you want to say the one?